1 second. Looks like for some reason Facebook doesn't like it. Try this again. Save changes. I'll remove that from there. Looks like for some reason it was deleted on Facebook. Doing it. And there we go. So now it's live. Okay, so we're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Okay.
So thank you for anyone joining us out there. Feel free to send us a message and we can read your comments on the air. This is episode 50 of G.I Joe, a Real American Headcast. And here's Kevin. Kevin, glad you could join us, buddy.
What's going on, guys? Good to see you.
Got Jim.
Kevin.
You showed up in the chat several times, and then Dave from over on the Signal podcast.
What's up, guys?
Hey, man.
Brad can't make it. He's got some of this kid for Boy Scouts or something, and then Jared's not able to make it. Something about a restraining order against me, and I don't know what's going on with him.
I believe it.
So let's get this show on the road then. So as I was saying, this is episode 50 of G.I Joe, a Real American Headcast. It's been 50, well, technically more than 50 episodes, but 50 episodes since I started this little endeavor. And joining me today, we have one of our regular co-hosts, Kevin Reitzel, a.k.a. Raider Nerd.
What's
Hey,
up,
Kevin.
guys? Good to be here. Number 50. God,
Glad
time
to have
flies, man.
Yeah,
Seems like it was just like a couple of weeks ago. I jumped on, what was it, episode like issue 5 or 6 or something
Like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Episode 50.
Oh, I got a G.I. Joe costume. Woohoo! Remember me?
Oh, I love your G.I. Joe costumes. Those are fantastic. I love seeing those. And my other regular guest can't be here today. As I was saying earlier, Brad's got family things going on, and me and Jared's got a legal dispute going on right now. Something about inappropriate fondling, and you don't want to be fondled. Don't come to the Headcast studio. That's all I'm saying. But I do have a couple of special guests joining me from over on the Signal podcast. We have David Finn. Hey, Dave.
Hey, guys. How are you? I'm just, I've woken up about 5 minutes ago. I've had a coffee, and I'm ready to talk G.I. Joe, and a pleasure to be here.
Where are you located, Dave?
Sydney, Australia.
Nice. My wife's from Melbourne. I'll be visiting there in June.
Fantastic. Yeah, Melbourne's lovely. So, yeah, it's been boiling hot here, and I was up until about 1 a.m. last night on signal duties. So I've had a little rest, and here I am, ready to go.
You talk some G.I. Joe.
Yep.
Also
Yo, Joe.
Also joining us from our Facebook group, and he's joined in on several of our broadcasts here. We have Jim Mill.
How we doing, guys?
Am I pronouncing that right, Jim? Is it Mill?
Yes, that's correct.
I usually butcher names, so
4 letters, but you'd be surprised how many people don't pronounce it correctly.
Oh, I can see. Yeah, definitely.
So
glad to have you guys on the show.
thanks.
Maybe I'll get rid of the other 2 Yahoos and replace them with you guys. But no, we are here to talk about G.I. Joe issue 50. I've got it digitally, plus I've also got the floppy here in my hand.
Right on.
So let's go ahead and get started with it. Oh, before I get going, actually, just quickly, Dave, why don't you tell people about your G.I. Joe love, how you came into G.I. Joe?
It's not as spectacular as just about anybody in the world because I mean, my God, it's so long ago that I feel like I'm about 75 years old, but I'm actually not quite that old. But I in the 80s, Saturday morning cartoons were a thing, kids, and I was a huge Transformers fan as a kid. Now, I did know there was a G.I. Joe cartoon, and I did have a friend who was into it heavily, into army stuff. I was more tangentially aware of it, and it wasn't until I'm a big comic book reader, and it wasn't until much later that I picked up. It was when Chuck Dixon was writing G.I. Joe, and that was when I started reading it. Obviously, I knew of it, and I also knew that would be my kind of thing. And I started reading that, and I was like, "Wow, this is really good." And then I kind of backtracked and started reading the classic stuff and everything. But it was not as big in Australia as it was in the States in terms of the toys. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it was just not quite as dominant. Like Transformers was very dominant. But yeah, no, it's a great and reading the comics with Larry Hama. I mean, they're awesome. Like I think anyway, I absolutely love them.
Oh yeah, they're wonderful. We love them here. So,
Mm.
and Jim, why don't you go and tell everyone out there how you came to GI Joe?
Well, I started out. The toys and the comics were probably simultaneous. Sorry, it's toys and the cartoon. I didn't start in the comics until issue 88, which was the Python Patrol one.
Cool.
And as far as comic collecting go, once I got into G.I. Joe, it was all over from there. You know, getting into the comic store, then you see all the other ones, and then of course the toys. 84, 85 to 90 was my high point. So that's kind of my heyday. And if I saw Joe, I needed it, had to have it. And that's where the collecting bug came into being. And so, but yeah, that was pretty much it. And then of course, on and off throughout the years, you get to be an adult, you get rid of it. And then later on, you realize that you want that stuff again. And as you can see behind me, it's all back.
Yeah, I like your headquarters there. Just look at your headquarters.
Yeah,
I love that.
So now I've got so much I buy and sell here and there at shows. So
Very nice.
But it funds the hobby.
I love it.
Very nice.
Can I ask a question? Does anyone here have the Cobra headquarters thing? Because that's the thing I really like. What's it called? The
Terradrome's right to my
the
left.
Terradrome. Yeah. I think the Terradrome is just awesome. Like,
Yeah.
If
you're ever in Vancouver, Canada, hit me up because there's a fantastic toy store there that deals with new and used toys. And the owner of the store is an obvious G.I. Joe fan because the huge back area of the store is this big diorama of all 3 3/4 inch G.I. Joes, including I want to say 6 or 7 Terradromes stacked on top of each other to create this ultimate Terradrome.
Love it.
And then he's got about 4 flags up there in different array of battle condition because he sets up this big battle and everything. But I'm looking at going, are those 6 Terradromes stacked on each other? Yeah, it's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I got into G.I. Joe because I was looking for Care Bear comics and all they had was G.I. Joe, and I decided to buy that instead. So
yeah,
Care Bear, G.I. Joe's, pretty much the same thing.
I actually think if I'd got into it when I was a kid at the same time as Transformers, I would have been defenseless. I probably would have joined the military because I was close to joining the military anyway, but it would have pushed me over the edge for sure, I think.
I've heard stories from several people yesterday they joined the military because of G.I. Joe. So
I have a friend of mine a Canadian friend of mine who actually became a tank driver because of Steeler, who we'll be talking about later. And he's used the Pulaski name as a fake name on Facebook and stuff. But he joined the military because of G.I. Joe.
Very nice.
I believe it completely. Awesome.
Yep. Very nice. And so for those out in the chat, like I say, feel free to say hi. Kevin said hi to everybody out there. So if you're out in the chat, say hi. We use comments on the air. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the like and subscribe button. Again, I don't usually say that enough. So yeah, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button if you're enjoying what we're doing here, even if you don't. let's go ahead. And so we have Photo Viper in the chat. He says, toy traders in Canada. He's always wanted to see the displays in real life.
Oh, yeah, that's it. That's the one he's talking about. Yeah. I think that might be it.
Very nice. So let's go ahead
Awesome.
and get started with today's issue. Today's going to be a little bit longer than normal, and it may be our regular for the next every other month for the next couple of years as we're getting introduced to special missions. But before that, this is issue 50. The cover date on this was August of 1986. The on sale date was May of 1986. Cover price was $1.25, and it was a 48-page count book. The cover on this was done by Mike Zeck and John Beatty.
Cool.
Insert the Zach Beatty soundtrack there, because who needs Jared? And the editor on this was Bob Harris. So for the first story, the first regular 22-page story was called The Battle of Springfield. As always, or normally, written by Larry Hama, penciled by Rod Wiggum, inker was Andy Muschinsky, letterer Joseph Rosen, colorist George Russo. And this was reprinted in the G.I Joe Volume 5 trade paperback. And I'm assuming it was probably in the G.I Joe Complete Collection number 5. But Jared's not here to confirm that for me, so we'll say it is. The synopsis on this one. We joined the battle for Springfield already in session. Actually, let's back up a second. I'm forgetting.
That's it. That's all we need to know.
That's how it starts.
Yep.
Let's talk the cover before we get that going to that. So the cover of this one, I'm holding it up on the screen. It's basically showing the tank with Flint and I believe that's Stiller. Or is that
Is it the Mauler tank? Is that what that one is?
actually no, I believe the Mauler. So that's
Yeah.
forgetting
By the barrel, it looks like it's the Mauler.
But rolling into Springfield, we see the sign that says "Welcome to Springfield," a nice little town. The sign has seen better days. Post is broken, the boards are broken. Looks like a few bullet holes in it, and the town beyond that is in destruction and disarray. And you can tell it's been a battle. So, Kevin, what are your thoughts on the cover of G.I. Joe issue 50?
If you guys have been listening or watching this podcast, we talk about the covers a lot, and it's a big deal. And I threatened Aaron that if I was not on issue 43, he would have to pay some heavy consequences. And that's because of the cover, and it also had a really good story too, because that's the one with the Grim Reaper and the M60. But this series has some iconic covers that, maybe when you're in a comic book store and you're thumbing through used issues, whether they're beat up or not, there's just certain ones you might pick up again just because they're these great little pieces of artwork. And I remember heavily being into G.I. Joe, picking it. By this time, I was off from picking them up at my 7-Eleven spindle rack. I found a comic book store and I was buying the first edition, or the direct release ones here. And I was waiting and waiting for issue 50. Now, when I look back at all of the past issues, I could probably pick maybe about most of the covers, Aaron, you could probably attest to this, that we give them, most of them, pretty high marks, especially when it comes to Beatty and Zach.
Yes.
But there's been a couple that a few of us have kind of gone back and forth on, like maybe not the greatest, maybe we'll give it kind of average. And most of them out of the Yojo Colas, they're pushing like 4s and 5s and stuff like that. And on my hand, I could probably count maybe 5 or less that to me are below average. And G.I. Joe covers in general do a pretty good job. The number 50 for me, I'll be perfectly honest with you, below average. I don't think it's a really good cover of what you're going to get inside of it. It tells you what's going to happen. But when I look at this cover, I find it actually kind of disappointing. And when I look through like old comics and comic boxes and I see this, it just doesn't pop. When I look at it, I'm thinking this opening page, this spread page, that would have been a better cover. Or my best thing would have been having Serpentor get hit and damaged, and hit. Like, how cool would that have been seeing him in battle on action on here instead? Because we didn't get that in the last one. He's, we got, grave robbing instead. But I got to be honest with you, I am not a fan of this cover. It's cool, but it's not G.I. Joe cover cool, in my opinion, especially when I look back at all the past issues.
Right. Nothing wrong with that. Let's go ahead and move on to
unpopular opinion, maybe. I don't know.
We'll see. Dave, what are your thoughts on the cover of G.I. Joe issue 50?
Well, I hadn't really got into like heavy amount of detail of thought, but basically, Kevin has made me think, made me question. I do
Sorry, I went first. I didn't get a choice.
No, it's good. It is. Now that I look at it, it is a little bland, but I will say I do like the Welcome to Springfield, a nice little town kind of destroyed. That's the best part of the cover. The thing with the tank, because I hadn't quite reached this in my reading yet. I'm only a couple away, so I read 49 and then I read 50. For a 50th issue, considering it was the first 50th issue of the G.I. Joe comic, it's probably a little bland, but I do like the Welcome to Springfield destroyed. It probably could have done with a more punchy visual to the left of the sign. But it's okay. I mean, it gets the job done, but it's not one of those covers that grabs you if you were at the comic shop.
Yeah, you'd think a 50th issue would go boom, like all the way, because that's a momentous issue for any comics, and you just think it would it would grab you. This one just doesn't grab me.
Agreed. It's very run of the mill.
Yeah, exactly. Well said.
Very nice. And Jim, you have thoughts on the cover?
I can see where Dave and Kevin are coming from. I think the colors are off a little bit on the very background, the sky. I think that throws it off a little bit. Overall, I think it's an average cover. What I do like is, and Dave brought it up too, was the Welcome to Springfield sign. That's an homage to issue number 10, the cover on that, where Snake Eyes and Scarlet are sneaking through, and that's the first time you see that sign. Yep. Welcome to Springfield. And I like that little homage to it, as it kind of throwing back, 40 issues to so. But yeah, the colors are a little off. But it's an average cover. It's not, like you guys said, it's not one that just pops off. There's several other covers that I can think of that are better. So.
And as far as me, I've always ranked this a little higher just because it's the 50th issue and it's memorable. But after Kevin had his little discussion there, his little TED talk, I definitely see where you're coming from. Yeah, and it does. Like Jim just said, I do like that the sign harkens back to the introduction of Springfield back in issue 10, 40 issues ago. I do like that.
Great issue too. That was a great cover.
Yes,
fantastic cover. Yeah.
But yeah, this cover kind of tells what happens at the end of the issue. Basically, Springfield's destroyed, and the Joes are just left there. So yeah, I've always really liked this cover, but yeah, hearing you guys talk about it, actually, I don't know how much of it is just nostalgic for it, or how much, because again, it would have been a better cover for a 50th if they would have either had more of the Joes involved with it, or maybe show the Joes fighting Serpentor, as Kevin was saying. So I've got to reconsider my thoughts on this cover now. Thanks, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Okay.
It's seriously, it's bugged me for a long time. It's like, oh cool, the 50th issue, and it's like, I almost kind of wish that they would have done an alternate cover for it. It is a cool cover, but at least shown the front of the tank or something. I don't know, but when you hit a milestone comic like that, you got to go all out. You know?
Definitely.
And the issue itself is quite momentous inside.
Yeah,
so,
it's huge.
Yep.
Yeah.
second. Okay, and give me just 1 minute, guys. I need to run the other real quick. Give me just 1 minute. Talk amongst yourselves. And I will back in just one moment.
How
Dave.
about that weather?
Oh,
Dave, can you move the camera down? I can't see your whole face.
Oh.
There you go.
maybe that was planned.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way,
Uh,
in my bedroom, I have a sweatshirt from Manly Beach.
there
that I
you
wear.
go.
I want to go back there because I took a tour of the Sydney Bay the last time I was there. Because the first time I visited she was my girlfriend at the time, or my fiance, but the first time I visited her home in Melbourne, we stopped off in Sydney because I'd never been there before, and we took a whole like ferry tour around the whole Bay of Sydney. And
yeah.
and we even went to Quarantine Island, which was funny because that was before COVID.
Yeah.
But yeah, we made all the stops. Of course, stopped at the Opera House, walked across the bridge and stuff. But Manly Beach was my favorite. It was very touristy, but it was still really cool. So
It is nice. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I like Manly. Yeah, it's a nice place to visit. You can check it out in a day easily.
yeah, definitely. How long have you been living there all your life?
Born in Sydney, yeah. And went down to Hobart, Tasmania for sort of teenage years. Then came back up here once I graduated uni and worked here since.
I find it fascinating how G.I Joe has effect on people outside the United States. Did you guys get the cartoon as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but as I was saying earlier, it wasn't quite as big. You know what I mean? Like, you're certainly aware of it and the toy, but it was all a bit like, if you can imagine the US, if it's like here, in Australia it was kind of here. And things like Transformers were a bit above it, like in terms of its reach. But yeah, it was there, yeah, for sure.
When I was last in Melbourne, and I'm going back in June, downtown Melbourne, there's this great store called This Is Not a Toy Store. That's what it's called. The guy is from Malaysia, but he's a big pop culture fan and a huge G.I. Joe fan. And the trick to his toy store is all of his stuff is custom made, and usually it's like a mashup of a couple of different fandoms. He'll like take a Star Wars figure and make something cool out of it and do something a little different, but then he'll repackage it into an actual blister pack figure type situation. And then he'll take other toys and kind of customize them and kind of throw in another fandom into it. But he did these like G.I. Joe Cobra 3 3/4 inch figures. Like he made this Cobra Patrol that was like skateboarders, and they were like the Cobra skate rats or something funny. Like I just thought it was the weirdest but coolest thing. It was great. So I know the fandom is there. I just didn't know how big it was. Yeah.
It's definitely there. I had a friend who was like heavily into it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he was a real kind of. He literally did join the army, and I even think like the sort of like whatever it's called in Australia, the sort of special forces in Australia, whatever they're called. But yeah, he was heavily into it, and he was really drinking the Kool-Aid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he was guzzling it down. Yeah, so no, it's excellent. I've got into buying the classified figures. I don't know about you guys, but
yeah, I got a couple hanging over here.
Yeah, I've got 4 long boxes full of classified figures.
Wow.
Jim, let me ask you. When they first came out, I was jumping on whatever I could because I was enjoying the hunt, and I missed the hunt.
Yep.
But then it came to the point to where the price point and some of the stuff, I started getting extra selective over this last year. First of all, where are you located?
Michigan, West Coast.
And I'm sure like you guys might, like your stores weren't always like having everything, but are you more selective on them now?
I definitely am. First of all, like you said, the price point, and there's getting so many of them out now. There's so many in one wave and this and that. It's like, I can't do them all. I can't collect them all.
I've just been collecting favorites,
Yep.
Yeah.
Like this last round.
Ones, though, isn't there? There's some great ones.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This last ones they announced, I pre-ordered Torpedo, Snow Job, and Scrap Iron, and that was it.
I pre-ordered the classic Shipwreck because that was my first G.I. Joe costume, and I love Shipwreck. And I picked up a Tiger Force Recondo because that's one of my costumes for the G.I Joe Finest group. And then I picked up Spirit because he's got freedom.
I've got Spirit. Spirit's great.
Yeah, it's fantastic, man. Look at this guy. I mean,
Yeah,
the
it's
detail
awesome.
is amazing.
Yeah.
They're doing
Yeah.
great with the figures.
Yeah.
They're doing amazing, but
They're
like
just
you
not
said,
cheap.
they're not cheap, and there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
So, but
I've
I've
got
got
Welcome
Baroness
back,
on a
Aaron.
Baroness on a motorcycle as well. I got that one. That was a good one.
Yeah, I just sold that one.
I love Baroness. Baroness is my favorite. I love her. So she's just great.
Oh, nothing wrong with Baroness, as we'll talk about later on in the show. But
Yeah,
A few
we
times,
will.
probably.
so sorry about that. So let's go and get some Yojo Colas on this. Again, since it's the 50th issue, I'll recap just a bit. Yojo Colas. This is between 1 to 5 Yojo Colas. 1 being it's a crap cover. You don't want to see it again. 3 is a basic standard cover. And 5 is something you want blown up and hanging on your wall. Kind of like someone did with issue 43. But that's another story entirely.
I should have had that hanging up right now, but
You
I wanted to put the Coastal Defender up. So
Well, there you go. So, Kevin, 1 to 5 Yojo Colas.
if this wasn't the 50th issue, I would probably give it a 3 out of 5. But it gets docked because it's the 50th issue. So I'll give it 2.5.
Ooh.
I'll give it 2.5. Like I said, if it wasn't the 50th, I would give it a 3.
Right.
But because it's a 50th, you get docked.
And Jim, out of 1 to 5 Yojo Colas.
Yeah, I'm going to be right there with Kevin. And since I can give 2.5, I'm going to give 2.5 because, I was on. I'm going to give 2.5. Just as you said, if it was the 50th, it is the 50th. If it was just a normal 1 through 41 through 49, it would be different. You're right, and the colors are just not right.
Yeah,
it's not something. The colors just aren't. It's just something's off about it.
I think the background behind the G.I Joe logo should pop more. It's dark.
I agree.
Yeah, because
they've got the smoke from the fires behind the background, which darkens it. And they got the. I think it's supposed to be a setting sun with the smoke in the air, is making it give that orange tint to the color. So
the yellow star and the white just blend in way too much together.
Yeah, I can get to that. And Dave, 1 to 5.
I'm going to give it a 3. I'll give it a 3. I certainly didn't think too much of it until Kevin gave his monologue, and then I was like, oh wow, okay, now I'm questioning my life, really.
I should start a cult, man. I'll pull all you guys in.
There you go. And normally, well, again, I will speak for Jared. Since it's a Mike Zeck cover, I'm sure he gives it a 4 at the minimum. So, because that's what
I'd love to get his thoughts on that next time, because I'd be
definitely.
curious if he was a little underwhelmed as well. So,
and normally I would give it a 4, but again, after Kevin's little monologue and his thoughts he's raised on, he's brought some very interesting thoughts to the forefront. I'm actually going to move it down to a 3 because again,
that's a pretty big jump. Yeah,
for a 50th issue, And I bought this. I didn't buy this off the stand. I bought this later on. I bought it, from one of the inside people that advertise for comic, probably East Coast Comics, probably, or Mile High. One of them. I bought a bunch of comics from them.
So you mentioned something at the beginning, Aaron, and I just found out.
What's that?
I'm 52 years old, and I just found out that the 40p stands for 40 pages.
Oh.
Never figured that and put that together before, that they actually have a page count on the page. Never knew that. I didn't know what that meant.
I don't think that's for pages. I think that's probably pence.
Pounds?
Exactly what UK uses. And this is 40. Don't mess with my head.
You said 40 pages, and I'm like, did they just put that? Or is that for 40 pounds or 40
pounds?
pence?
That's what it is.
40 pence. That's what it is. Okay.
Yeah, no, it definitely would be the pence for sure. Yeah.
People. It's 40 people.
$1.25 in the States, is what it cost?
Yep. It costs $1.25.
40 pence. Is that expensive? 40 pence expensive? Oh.
I mean, it's roughly equivalent to what $1.25 would have been like at the time.
But that'd be more. That would be more in Australia for you guys, right?
In Australia, if it was $1.25 in the States, it would have been more expensive in Australian dollars. It might have been close to $2 or
Okay.
a bit less. Yeah,
Gotcha.
back then.
Right.
I don't know what the exchange rates were in '86
Right.
off the top of my head, but it would definitely have been more expensive in Australian dollars.
Or our Canadian friends had to pay a quarter extra for this, so they had to pay $1.50 if you're in Canada. So
Yeah, well, you know.
but yeah, so that is the cover of G.I. Joe issue 50. Again, a little lackluster from what we wanted for a 50th issue. You've got some good.
Did they start? Did Zach Beatty start getting their names on the cover? I mean, you notice it's not coming in on the camera, but
Right.
Zach Beatty's actually on the cover. Is that new? Have they had their name on covers before?
I want to say it has. I don't have my box right in front of me, so I couldn't tell you for certain.
It just pops right there. I just noticed that. So maybe
Yeah.
I'll have to look at the other ones.
I'm pulling up one of my digital scans of the last issue to see. And it's not showing up on there, so maybe it is something new. If Jared hadn't disappointed us, not showing up, I'm sure his book would have said. But yeah, I'm looking through the last couple of covers, at least the digital scans I have of them. And yeah, I'm not seeing their names anywhere on the cover.
That's pretty cool. Maybe because it's a 50th issue. Maybe that was an exception or something.
Very good call there, Kevin. Wow, you're.
I'm making up for the dumb 40 pages Pence thing. So
Yeah, I'm looking at the cover of the next issue. I don't see it there either.
all right.
And I've got so yeah, it looks like maybe this was something they did for the 50th issue. On 52, there's his initial Mike Zeck's initials on it. But yeah, now I'm falling down the rabbit hole looking at these covers. Yeah, and I don't. This appears to be the only one I see here that actually has their names like that on there. Very good call.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Good call. So, and then real quick, you guys, while I'd stepped away for a moment, you guys are having a discussion about the classifieds. Photo Viper from the chat says he swore he wouldn't allow himself to get sucked into another scale. But he did get classified Zartan and a Pimp Daddy Destro because he couldn't resist.
Can I make a quick comment? I collected Transformers, which were, I think, a bit bigger than the G.I. Joes at the time in the 80s. And look, I'm just the dumb Australian here. But like, that was, I was used to a certain scale of figure, and I think the G.I. Joes being a tiny bit smaller was probably, it counted against me getting into it. So when these classifieds came out, I was like, oh, this is great. This will go nicely on my in my cabinet and stuff. And I've bought I've probably got 20 of them. There you go.
I said I wasn't going to get into the classified figures, but I've got like over half of them. This is a bat that my friend Articulated Chad sent to me.
Yep, I love those bats.
Yeah, I had to get my blood on.
Yeah.
Nice. They're pretty good, like really.
But yeah, like you guys saying, like Kevin was saying, I pre-ordered the Shipwreck because, well, it's Shipwreck. It's classic.
It's Shipwreck, baby.
Yeah, I had to get Shipwreck. I'm waiting for Mutt and Junkyard to come out.
It comes with Polly, I got to get my Joe. I got to get my Joes with animals,
Yes.
Cobra 2.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, they've announced Mutt and Junkyard too. So
nice.
Definitely another one I have to get. But anyways, and I did get Serpentor here a week or so ago. So
okay,
waiting on Mindbender. Got a pre-order, just waiting for him to. That's another complaint entirely different. So let's go back to the 50th issue of G.I. Joe. I'll complain about the toys on a Bravo team. So as I was saying, the synopsis for this issue, we join the battle for Springfield already in session. The Joes are continuing their assault on Springfield. The new Cobra soldier, Serpentor, rallies the troops, leads a fake, getting all the Cobras to the school football field for an extraction. Meanwhile, the Joes have recovered Ripcord, or Airborne, or whatever his name is, but they lose the battle as they have no proof that Springfield was ever a Cobra base, and they destroyed this American town. The Dreadnoks find that Storm Shadow is still alive, and they escape with him back to Zartan's gas station lair, where they find waiting for them Zartan's sister, Zarada. Dun, dun, dun.
Yep.
Again, a lot of gram in this cram, but let's go ahead and talk about it. So, let's go and start with our guests. Dave,
Mm.
I'm going to start with you. Do you have
Sure.
thoughts on issue
Well,
50?
yeah, I do. And coming into it, as I said, I'm up to volume 6 of the classic thing, but hadn't quite reached this. So what I did was I read 49 just to get my bearings, and then I hit 50, and I was really impressed by the amount of story, momentous moments such as Serpentor arriving on the scene, and that crazy story how they created him through all the different military leaders of the past, like Genghis Khan, etc. Um, the evacuation of Springfield is kind of so organized by Cobra, and it's cool. How about the bit where they kill the dog? That was just like, wow, okay.
Boo!
Yeah, I was like Larry Harmer, just not pulling any punches there. Yeah, look, I love this issue. I noticed Storm Shadow seems to have taken on some of the personality or something, or the memories of those former soldiers as well. It seemed former leaders.
Yep.
Serpentor is braver than I don't know a lot about Serpentor, but he was braver than I expected. Like leading the charge. It's a really good battle issue, and just I was just really impressed by the whole issue. And then in the end, it leads, and then I see Baroness here kind of flirting a bit with Serpentor. Yeah, and then it all leads up to, as you said, Zartan's sister. I really felt like a really good issue, and I was glad I read 49 to kind of get me into it, so I knew what was going on. Yeah, excellent issue. Excellent issue, I think, personally. Lot of story crammed into those pages.
Oh, yeah. Right there like this. And Jim, do you have any thoughts on this 50th issue, the first story?
Yeah, I've loved, as I stated, issue 88 was my first issue that I bought. It actually obtained. It was given to me. So I had to go back and buy all the back issues, and this was the one of probably the first 10 that I bought.
Yeah, that must
And
have been fun for you.
Oh well, that was 30 years ago, but anyway, and so I bought this and I opened up and you got the group of Joes running away from something. I'm like, what the heck's going on? What in the world? But it opened up action throughout the whole story. I love the way the Cobras faked out the Joes at the airport and the high school. And there was a couple things, when the Dreadnoks were in the museum with Storm Shadow and the Joes busted in and they said, oh, I thought it was a self-destruct going off already. And like, why are you still there? Why, and then that was just a lead into the story later. That was just a setup, just the way the story set up itself throughout the whole thing. It was great. So I enjoyed the story quite a bit, and it made me go buy 49 to figure out why are they doing this? What led up to this?
Right.
Because this was probably the earliest issue that I had bought to that point. So it was easy to obtain issues 60 through 70 because they were a little bit cheaper at the time. So I didn't know any of the previous story before this. So, but no, it made me go back and buy this. It was just it took quite a few years to get them all, but it was very good. So
it did its
the
job.
Story overall was good. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And Kevin, thoughts?
There's a lot going on here, and it's tough to kind of narrow in on all of them. So I'm just going to pick a few highlights there. First of all, boo on trying to kill the dog. Come on.
That's
Why
rough.
Could the dog
that's
come
rough.
along? Jeez. And we got Hawk being the leader here. It's great. And love seeing the return of Storm Shadow. And of course, as mentioned, that he's looks like he's picking up some of the minds and ability of all of these warriors that were, DNA was extracted from to make Serpentor. I've never been a huge fan of how Serpentor looked. It is iconic though, especially with his hover sled and all that kind of stuff. I kind of wished he looked more like maybe more of a combination of all the leaders that they cherry picked from, and
Right.
had a more practical uniform, I guess. But I liked what they did with his character in this episode. Little things like picking up the wounded Cobra soldier, and showing the other Cobras that, I care about you. I'm going to lead from the front, and we're gonna tend to our wounded as opposed to just leaving everyone behind type of scenario. And what I love too is that he's showing that he's a badass. He gets hit, and the Cobra goes, "He's down. They got him," and he's all, "Bah, the scratch." No more. Hot iron will staunch the flow and cauterize the wound. He's like, well,
Yeah.
And I think the best cauterized wound scene of all time in movies is Rambo 3, when he has to pull out that metal thing through his side. It goes in one, out the other, and he pours in gunpowder, and then he lights it on fire, and you see the fire coming out the back of the wound and the front of the wound. Anyway, just got to give a shout out to that.
Very nice.
And yes, I love it when Cobra succeeds in their plans, and we've been talking about how they tricked the G.I. Joes into creating their Cobra Island and bringing that to fruition, and how they did, as you guys mentioned, faking them out and retreating and everything, and how they have this whole controlled little city of theirs, exposed now, but what they had to do to try to not give themselves up and to escape and stuff like that. And I thought that was really cool to kind of see that happening. And in a way, it's a strategic exit in not a surrender, but a retreat. And it was just nice to see a bunch of the other Joes get in there and do things and have things to say and do. And I love how there was like strategy put in here as well. And I love the scene in the dump truck, where they're like escaping the dump truck. And you got the two, I forget which two in the back. Is it Beachhead and someone else? Like they're in the back, like covering the rear. That's just a great shot there. And then of course at the end, the first appearance of Zorana, Zartan's sister, was like, "Oh, who's this girl? Hot." Yep. Yeah.
It was Beachhead and Leatherneck.
Yes, yeah. I love that shot. They're like in the back of the trash going, "Got your back covered,"
So the new Joes are the ones that have to sit in the trash.
Yeah.
You think they drew straws for that job, or just...
I use first in the trash.
The dump truck is basically an armored transport. I mean, we've seen it utilized in movies and in real life, unfortunately. And what's interesting about the dump truck is that there's a scene in what is it? Civil War, Avengers Civil War, where the bad guys use it as a battering ram.
Yeah.
And for Dragon Con in Atlanta, all of the finest G.I. Joe members, like myself and a bunch of others who are in the parade with all the other parade participants from other fandoms, they get dump trucks to block off roads so that if anyone else thinks they're going to try ramming a vehicle into crowds purposely, you can't do that. So I like that they use the dump truck. So.
Yes, that was cool. Nice touch. Very nice. And I've got a few thoughts on this. Some of you guys have already brought up. Like Kevin was saying, I like the way the Spentor is not only willing to lead the charge, but he actually, seems to care when his soldiers are wounded. Very nice.
I'm wondering what famous leader he got that from, because I don't know if Genghis Khan was one of those guys.
No, probably not.
I'm wondering like which one of the cloned guys had that type of honor.
Was Caesar one of the leaders? Was Caesar one of the leaders? Maybe Caesar.
I don't think he was mentioned, but in here they didn't mention a lot of them, so there were just comments. They only mentioned a few, if I'm not mistaken. But
I mean, if he had gone, Patton's DNA, he probably would have slapped his men. So
yeah,
exactly. Alexander the Great, maybe. I'm not sure.
Alexander, maybe Alexander, man. What a legend he was. Jesus.
Yeah. With that scene where he got shot, you look in the in that one corner panel, the Cobra troopers are going, "What is he down? He's shot. Right. What's he going to do?" They're wondering, okay, is he like Cobra Commander, or what's he going to do? First of all, Cobra Commander wouldn't be out on the battlefield, but anyway, but he's like, they're all, what's he doing? Once he steps up and he takes charge, that's a big move for him.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think that's what made it so easy for him to become the new Cobra leader, is that he was willing to. He cared about his guys, and again, he didn't lead from the back like Cobra Commander did. He was out there in the front, leading the charge. So that's very signs of a good leader is, not only in war but just in general. If the leader is willing to get out there and put themselves in the same muck that the people they're leading are in, that shows that the leader cares, and that's a sign of a good leader. So that definitely helps. The next note I have here is that, as you guys have mentioned on page 4, where Dad had to shoot the dog.
Yeah.
Just getting my own dog here recently. I can feel for the kids, See, Dad had to pet the dog.
Your dog is named Junkyard, right?
Yes, he is. Yes.
Yeah, I love it.
Love it.
What kind of dog is he?
He is a lab with some chow mixed in, apparently.
Oh, so cute.
So, the wife saw him online and she's like, "Oh, we don't need another dog." And I keep saying, if I get another dog, it's gonna be a bigger dog. And I was looking something new, someone called Timber, maybe is what I was looking at. But I saw this one. I saw this one. Oh, he reminds me very much of Junkyard. Okay, I'll get him. So,
my dog's name is Timber. He's a German Shepherd Husky mix.
Nice.
Lovely. That's a good mix.
But my son's like, I don't like that name. Let's call him Chocolate Brownie. No, we're not calling him Chocolate. His name's Junkyard, son.
Yeah, that's it. Junkyard. Get used to it.
Yeah. And you guys just mentioned, Storm Shadow seems to have the memories that went into Serpentor. And we'll find out in the next few issues, but I don't really recall this being an issue or coming back up after this, but we'll see. My next note here is when Destro was talking about loyalty to Baroness, how, she's like, well, we just take off. He's like, well, my loyalty is not just for, up for grabs. When I'm loyal to somebody, I'm loyal. And then he makes a comment about how he won't put honor aside for love.
Yeah.
And I saw that. I'm like, well, we're going to revisit that here down the road, when he decides to give up everything for love. But that's for another discussion.
What about lust for Baroness? Because that's going to be a factor as well.
Some people would be willing to stay in an alternate dimension for, I understand, but
tell you
stick
what,
around for
Destro,
that.
I mean, let's face it, Destro, Cobra Commander, as usual, is hiding somewhere, barking out orders. Serpentor's leading from the front. Baroness is flirting with him. Destro showed a bit of backbone there, not to just completely side with her, because I would have been tempted.
It's not about siding. It's about maybe hitting it a little bit. I'm just I mean, I love the fact that he goes, I have no great love for Cobra Commander, but I sided with him. I won't discard loyalties like last year's fashions. Don't try me, Baroness. Some men will put aside love for honor. Do you really want to know that much about me?
Wow.
I bet that just made him hotter to her.
Yeah, he could have given. Imagine if he said that and then he gave her a little slap on the ass.
The best part of that is that when they actually pick up Serpentor, and they're interacting with Serpentor, Baroness, and Destro, and Serpentor or Baroness says, "We never thought of leaving you behind." And Destro's like, "What?" And you can see it, that quick turn of the head. Like, wait a minute, that's not how that conversation went.
Woman, please.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so. I did notice that head turn. What? Wait a minute. I've got a few other comments here. Again, as someone else pointed out, push the cowards out of the way. I'm going back into the fight. I say Serpentor very much showed why he is the new Cobra leader and why he was able to take charge from Cobra Commander so quickly is because, like we said, not only is he willing to get out there and fight, but he cares about his people. But he leads from the front, not back at headquarters.
Yeah.
I do like that here in Springfield. Apparently, Cobra has their own version of the pit. They got the thing, the elevator going down and the tunnels leading across town, and they destroy all that to hide their evidence and stop the Joes from following them.
I was kind of getting a Hydra vibe a little bit.
Kind of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
considering the source, yeah, I can definitely see that. And yeah, my last comment on here is Zartan has a sister. I wonder what other family members are going to show up. But again, that's for next issue. But
Well, he's hiding in the back. You just don't see him because you don't notice him.
yes, you
Yeah.
tend to forget about,
Sneaky Zartan.
you tend to forget about whatever his name is. But yes, so no, that was and one thing I wonder about rereading this all these years later is that we, as I said in my synopsis, we start this issue in the middle or near the end of the battle, actually. So last issue it started, and then there was a whole battle that took place in between issues 49 and 50.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was just wondering, it struck me as, I don't know about odd, but I mean, it seems a lot left out. I just
Well,
wanted
like
to-
Scarlet got injured. Scarlet got injured. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's what I mean.
I
Yeah,
was
Scarlet
like,
was injured, and who was it? Ricondo
Hondo.
were both injured, needed an evac. I mean, the town's already halfway destroyed
yeah.
before Cobra starts setting off charges. And I was just wondering, maybe that should have been a special missions, maybe later on, or I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Starting.
I definitely would have liked to have seen like a 49.5 issue at some point, like later on. Larry just punched one out.
Yes.
Because Scarlet getting injured was a big thing, and she was just thrown over the shoulder. I was like, "What happened to Scarlet? We didn't get to see her like do anything."
Now, when they did the mid 2000s with the comic book 3-packs,
Right.
didn't they do? They did some 3.5, some 0.5s
Right.
with those. That would have been a great one or great time to do that.
Oh yeah.
So,
I know they introduced this whole special missions thing in this, but I think like a preview special mission would have been nice because it would have teased the fans of what's coming, and then they give the full tease in this issue. But yeah, that it would have been nice if like they just had maybe a quick little 6 to 10 page thing that just showed this little side battle that was maybe crucial in Springfield here, and something that happened, and why Scarlet got hurt, and maybe she did something really badass too. It's instead
100%.
She's just thrown over Snake Eyes' shoulder, and then mentioned that she's like bleeding out inside the dump truck.
Right.
She does have a moment later on in the issue where I think she sort of like makes a comment like that she's not useless or something. She has a line later on in the issue.
Yeah.
It's brief.
Yep.
Always one of my favorite characters, Scarlet. So I was a bit like, oh, what happened to Scarlet? I was thinking, did I miss a page? Is what I was thinking. Like,
We all missed it.
Yeah.
yeah.
But I didn't really think about that until I got rereading this for this episode. And I'm like, yeah, it's. And I've always known it starts out in the middle of the battle, but yeah, just rereading it now, I'm like, I would have liked to see more of the battle.
The line, by the way, Dave, that you're referring to is Doc says, "Take it easy, Scarlet. You're out of this fight." And she goes, "Not by a long shot. Just give me a rifle and point me in the right direction."
The Scarlet I love right there.
She's got like a full on like arm wound and head wound, and she was like, "Yeah, just prop me up."
As Dave said, she's badass.
She's badass. That's classic Scarlet for you. But I will say something, not really in his defense, but explanation. Larry had a lot to juggle in this issue, and he didn't seem to have an extra page count. It seemed he had to tie it in within
the 22 pages,
the normal 22. So,
yeah,
I mean, God, think of the writers of today. I don't know if you guys read a lot of comics.
Yeah,
they decompress like crazy. This would be like 4 to 5 issues.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be better. That's the thing. No. It wouldn't actually be better. Yes. Larry compressed it in, and I can see why he had to cut some stuff out. But oh my God, like the guys of today, I don't think they could do this in one issue. Really?
Oh no, definitely. And I do, and I am kind of complaining about the lack of the middle of the battle, but no, like you said, and as I say almost every episode, Larry does a fantastic job on this book, and that's a complaint I've made elsewhere about modern writers. It's been the last 20, 30 years, I think, that they've started decompress or uncompressing or whatever, and taking Larry took one issue to tell this battle. He started the last issue and he finished up this issue. Yeah, this would have been like 6, 7, 8 issues
Yeah.
nowadays to tell the same story. And yeah, it wouldn't have been as good.
Imagine throwing a kid like I reckon you could throw a kid like anywhere from like 10 to 15 this issue and they'd have a good time with it. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
I experimented recently. One of my best mates, he's got a daughter. She just turned 10, and I'm always trying to brainwash her a bit with comics. And I threw the Venom Spider-Man stuff from the mid '80s, and she ate it up.
Oh, yeah.
So you know, like, and she's not a comic reader. She's like, "Oh, this is so good. Is there more?" I go, "There's a lot more."
There's a lot more.
A lot more.
Like I talked with Daredevil Shag over my Head Speaks podcast here. It's been quite a while back now, but yeah, to me, the golden era of comics was like between the mid '80s to the mid '90s.
Yeah.
To me, that's when they were, both Marvel and DC for the most part was out of the park, and just it was a wonderful time. After that, they start getting into going into crossovers, and it kind of loses it for me. But yeah, between anywhere from that, I'd be willing to slack it off to the early '80s through the mid '90s. Is just like a great time.
That's a great time for
be a comic
for
reader.
Both houses, for sure. Yeah, and these came out at Marvel, didn't they? These G.I. Joes. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, Marvel had the license.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, and I don't know if it's official yet. Do we know where the license is going? I know IDW lost the license recently.
Yeah, IDW lost the license. I haven't heard where it's going, but I have seen on Larry's Facebook that he is working on issue 302 or 303.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. So he's still involved.
So yeah, he's still working on it, and it's still continuing somewhere. So
what a champ Larry Hummer is. I've been trying to get him on the show for years on Singular Doom.
Yeah.
Such a incredible workhorse, really.
Oh, yeah. No, I tried getting him on the show, but he said he doesn't do anything remotely. He only does interviews in person.
Right. Okay.
Person get up and walk away.
Turn up at his house. Just go, hey Larry, let's go. Tape recorder. Let's take it from the top. 1983. G.I. Joe.
Yeah, and I do have a small interview with Larry Hama that a friend of mine, Justin from DC in the '80s, got here a while back at a comic convention where he met with Larry and talked to him a little bit about G.I. Joe. So I'll have to put that in the show notes and maybe replay it at some point. But yeah, I was trying to get Larry on also. Yeah, he said he doesn't do interviews over Zoom or anything because he wants to be there in person. That way, if he doesn't like the questions, he can get up and leave. So anyway, that's
Larry Hammer stories via. I've managed to get a few Larry Hammer stories via Chuck Dixon because Chuck Dixon often comes on Signal of Doom. He's probably been on, 12 times, and and obviously they work very closely together at times in their career. And like Larry actually hired Chuck for Conan back in the '80s, and so I get a few Larry stories via Chuck, which are always good, always good stories. Yeah.
I noticed that Chuck seems to be a regular on your show, which is very nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, he's a big friend of the show. Comes on usually 2 or 3 times a year at least. No, he's a lovely guy. Yeah, always big pal of Signal Doom.
So before we move on to the next segment for this story, at least, do you guys have any other thoughts on anything else from the Battle of Springfield?
Yeah, I think it's an important question. Which side do you think that the Simpsons would side with, with this invasion of their hometown? Do you think they would stay with Cobra or would they be liberated with G.I. Joe?
I think Homer would stay with Cobra because he thinks that's the job security. He probably doesn't even really understand what's going on at all. Just that he knows he's got a job in this town. He has to move. Lisa probably with G.I. Joe.
Right.
I think Bart might wind up as one of the Dreadnoks.
That was the best answer I could have gotten. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, see, I figured Lisa would be more independent. She doesn't like Cobra, but she's not going to side with the military complex. So she'll be doing her own thing.
Good point. Very good point.
Good question, Kevin. Well, I keep you on the show. You have all these great comments, great questions for us. So we'll go ahead and move on to the second story, which was called Best Defense. This was our preview for the upcoming special mission, GI Joe special missions. In fact, it says that on the cover of the story. Bring myself back up full screen. There we go. It says it's GI Joe special missions, best defense. Quick synopsis for this story. Before I get there, actually, let me do the credits. As usual, written by Larry Hama, artist, the return of Herb Trimpe. Letterer, Philip Hugh Felix, colorist, Bob Sharon. This was an 18-page story, and this was reprinted in Special Missions trade paperback and G.I. Joe Volume 5 trade paperback. And I'm assuming, but again, Jared flaked out. I mean, Jared's not here, so I'm assuming it's also in the complete G.I. Joe Volume 5. So the synopsis on this: 3 terrorists hijack a Russian plane with Americans on board. Lady J, Flint, and Beachhead sneak aboard the craft, take out the hijackers before they can cause the plane to crash into a Russian chemical warfare depot, destroying millions of lives. So let's go and get some thoughts on this. Let's go ahead and Kevin, what are your thoughts on this story?
I was always a fan of the special missions because one of the things that we like about G.I. Joe is when you get a core group of Joes doing something, covert or something like that, and seeing them all. And of course, in the Battle of Springfield and work together is good. But we like those covert missions, like Navy SEAL style, and this is basically what it is too. And, I'm old enough to remember a lot of headlines from the late 70s and early 80s of all those hijackings that were happening. And this is basically taken right out of the headlines. And, this is where SEAL Team 6 started, working on their stuff, and it's all the special forces stuff started becoming a thing and becoming organized. And I remember one of the shows that we have here on the Fandom Podcast Network is Couch Potato Theater, and we discuss our favorite movies. And one that we did last year was Who Dares Wins, or The Final Option, the British SAS movie, where they take over an embassy, and that was the first time I actually got to see it on the big screen. And then now you're seeing it in this episode or this issue, Self-Defense and G.I. Joe Special Missions. A hijacked airplane, terrorists, and what the G.I. Joe team does to stop them. And I like the fact it's kind of a two-pronged attack. You got the plane itself, and then you've got the other headquarters with the bad guys and the very large woman with the very large gun. But this was straight up you basically straight up see a lot of violence in this, including the airline attendant getting, executed.
Yeah.
And it's pretty badass when you think about it. And what I like about this particular issue too is there was a lot of gunplay in it. And I like it when the artist and the storyteller, like Larry Hama, throws that in there and the artist can interpret it really well. And I just thought Hawk was pretty badass, and with Stalker just walking in, he's got a MAC-10 and, that was pretty damn cool. But then also you get the covert part of it too. You get what is it? Lady J.
Yeah, Lady J.
Yeah, they're sneaking into the plane. Beachhead's hiding like this, in the passenger thing, shh, be quiet, And it reminds me of what was the movie Executive Decision with Kurt Russell and Steven Seagal. Yep. And they have to sneak aboard the plane with a special jet thing, and then they have to I think John Leguizamo was in that as well, and they have to sneak out of the plane and take it from the inside. I just love stuff like that, and I like that we got a tease to what they were going to show us, and
yes.
So yeah,
very nice. And Dave,
I have bad news to report. This was not in my classic G.I. Joe, so I wasn't even. Yeah, it wasn't, but it's probably in my Special Missions classics, which I didn't realize. So sorry, I didn't realize, but I like the description of it. I like the ad for it. As I said, now I've finished classic G.I. Joe 5, and I'm ready to hit Special Missions and looking forward to it. So
it's awesome, Dave. Just take my word for it.
No, I am. I'm going to ditto. I'm going to ditto. Because I'm real high on this G.I. Joe stuff. I'm loving it. And, I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm giving it 9 out of 10. without
Nice.
even reading it. There you go.
Very nice. And Jim, thoughts on the best?
Yeah, special missions. I loved. They were usually one issue, concise. Mission was started and ended in one issue for the most part. There was some that kind of connected loosely together later on, and even with the main title. But I love how in most of them, Larry would hint at how it's going to get resolved in the beginning,
Right.
and then towards the end, in this one when they subdue the lady with the big gun, they did it with the taser. Well, that's how they did it. Took the guy on the plane. But yeah, I love how it's small core, like Kevin said, of characters, how they work together to get out of a situation. And this one was no different. And for it to be the first one where Larry was not afraid to cut, to show what, these are real guns. These are real, what am I looking for? Circumstances, as back in the day, that was, this is what's going to happen, and just how they resolved it, working together, two fronts. But yeah, special missions, especially this one, was really good, and I like how it was resolved with the hint from the beginning. So.
All these hijackings, as they call it, I guess you have to blame DB Cooper.
And special missions a little more realistic, I guess. It was, like I say, this one here, as Kevin pointed out, the stewardess got her, head blown off. I've got a few thoughts on this. Again, I noticed on the first page of the story, the co-pilot, you actually read his name is Jim Abbott, Lieutenant Jim Abbott. I was curious if that was anybody in real life. And the only thing I could find is that there's a baseball player named Jim Abbott. So I'm wondering if
Jim Abbott, the baseball player, played for the Angels. He was famous for not having, I think it was a left or right hand. And the way that and he always played for obviously American League teams because he didn't have to bat. And he was a pretty good pitcher. And when he would throw the ball, you would see him transfer the arm that didn't have like the hand to the mitt, and so he threw and caught with the same hand.
Oh,
that's awesome.
Nice.
That's pretty wicked. Wow.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if this was a reference to him or somebody else. But and again, the next I have here is Roger, the guy with the bomb attached to him. Doesn't seem to be quite right in the head. Well,
you think
more so than a normal suicide bomber is.
More than the other terrorist.
More than any other suicide terrorist.
I feel like he was itching to release that thing, man.
Yeah, like he was what they say, he had
tempt me, bro, tempt me.
He had cancer, so he's ready to die anyway. So he has nothing to lose. So, wow, it shows it's affected his mind, and wow.
He's on a death trip. He's on a death trip for sure.
Yes. And I think it was Kevin mentioned when Duke and Stalker was busting into the 4th International and they started taking out the people there. And Stalker took out, what do you call her? Tubby or Lardo or whatever it was. With the big gun. Where was that?
Beachhead was a straight up badass in this issue.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. Beachhead's usually.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
And Lady J having to change in the luggage compartment.
I've got notes about that.
Oh, I bet you do.
Not a bad panel.
No,
mentioning that.
So as people said, the taser package that, I think it was Jim mentioned they use the taser on the lady. And then again, they use it at the end, kind of bring it back full circle. Here's the note. Lady J changing on the plane. Hot.
Hot.
Well, let's pull that up. There we are.
Nice.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's actually a good panel. Yeah.
Very nice. Yes.
I've got to check out my special missions trade paperback
Yes,
and get involved. I will say, can I say this? I think obviously at this point, I assumed the toy line was really going gangbusters, and the idea to bring in a second title would, as well as the special mission stories, it would also surely have helped Larry maneuver around all the different pieces that he would have to.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
During this time, and I don't know if it was this time exactly, but in this time frame, G.I. Joe was selling better than Uncanny X-Men.
Really? Wow.
That's what Larry was saying.
And that's why
Wow.
explain why
in the mid '80s it was.
Yeah.
Aaron, can you zoom in on me for a second? Because I want to show how Beachhead is just like straight up ninja here. Okay, first of all, so we get Beachhead right there, right? Like shush.
Yeah.
You know, I'm hiding here underneath.
Yep.
Like, what? Nothing. And then the next page, it's like nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Nothing going on. Be quiet. I got things going on.
Yeah, I like him crouched down in there.
Yeah.
I love that. That was great.
Like a toddler, if he shuts his eyes, you know they can't see you, right?
You can't see me. You can't see me. You can't see me. Very much so. So yeah, and I'll repeat my last statement just because I want to repeat it again. Lady J changing on the plane. Hot. I like that little girl. Mom, there's mice moving underneath my seat.
That's not mice, daughter.
Yeah, again, I'm not a military guy. I'm not a gun guy, but I'm surprised all those bullets being thrown around the plane didn't puncture the hole itself and cause some problems for the plane. But again, I'm not a gun guy. I don't know. Maybe I'm mistaken. And my last note on here is back to Lady J getting locked in the toilet, locking herself in the toilet, even though the door was halfway blasted off. I did like that. But, where's Lady J? She locks herself in the toilet. Let me out of here. So again, that was the preview for our special missions, which actually starts next month. It was when the first issue comes out. So again, every other episode is going to be a little bit longer than normal because we're going to be talking about the regular issue plus the special missions issue.
And just to go back to Dave's comment, I stated it may be just as good as Uncanny X-Men. I can't, but Larry's had several interviews. He said it was right up there with Uncanny X-Men, Avengers, Spider-Man, all that stuff. So
because Uncanny X-Men was selling huge too, so to compete with a really big seller, that's impressive. You know what? It doesn't surprise me reading it because you have such a large fan base that's buying the toys, watching a cartoon, and Larry's putting out a very high quality comic. So it doesn't surprise me. It's good to hear, actually.
Yeah, and this is the time frame where I've got all of the Marvel run from 1 through 55 with the special Snake Eyes cover for this G.I. Joe special. Now I'm going back and getting all the second and third printings and the newsstands. This era is the worst because there were so many of them that they just kept reprinting them because it was so popular. It was sold out. So when I'm going through dollar bins and stuff like that, I gotta check my phone. Yep, I already got that one. But
damn it, third printing. Come on,
I know.
Who wants a third printing? Come on.
Yeah.
No, G.I. Joe was selling. This is 85, 86. Yeah, I think that was probably
84, 85, 6. It was just
They would kill for those numbers now. Could you imagine?
Oh yeah. Well. And that's one thing I've complained about, especially we're on Bravo Team. Me and Articulated Chad's made these comments that, back here, they had the comic, they had the toys, they had the cartoon. They did so well they came out of the second comic. Now, I mean, and I don't know why it's falling apart at, but one thing that helped sell the comic and the toys, I think, was the cartoon, which we'll talk about. But there's nothing really aimed for kids at this point. I mean, the comic, yes, but again, it's gone for right now until it comes back where it's coming out at. But the toys, honestly, and maybe it's just because I'm an old man and cheap, but the toys
missing it on the movies, that's for sure.
Yeah, the toys aren't even for the kids. As you guys talked about, the classified toys are 20 some odd dollars a piece.
They're for the collectors more. They're for a kid with his allowance. I mean, I don't know if kids have allowances anymore. They probably need proper full-time jobs. But they're sort of priced out of the range of where I would have been as a kid anyway. Put it that
That's
way.
I buy occasionally for my son, but yeah, he's 8, and I can't justify spending even when they have the figures, the smaller figures. It was hard for me to justify spending $12 on a figure for my son to destroy.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm definitely not buying him a $25 toy at this point because it's
or the
expensive.
the $18 5 articulation figures that are out there right now.
Yeah, no, those are
those make me shiver.
I love the package. In fact, I've got 2 of them because the wife bought them for me. I can't force myself to spend $18 on a figure that's got 5 points of articulation.
Yeah.
But yeah, my wife was at Target. She bought me a Lady J, and then she bought me a bazooka in the winter gear because she'd heard me editing or talking with you guys, the guys on one of the podcasts, and I mentioned bazooka, and she remembered that name. So she saw like, I heard you talk about this on your show the other day. So.
That's very sweet.
But yeah, so I've got those 2 because she bought them. But yeah, that's something I can't like. Oh, you don't like them? Well, they're not. They're nice. It's just I myself can't see spending $18 on a toy. But yeah, I'll take them. Don't get me wrong.
I'm not a fan of the reaction figures.
Yeah,
but they've made some figures that Hasbro isn't going to touch.
Yeah,
like you said, the bazooka and the winter gear, and
yes.
some of the snakelings and the snake eyes with them in this Cobra uniform or shipwreck. But I'm like Aaron. I can't see spending that much money on a.
I was tempted to get the snake eyes, and I think they had a shipwreck from the Pyramid of Darkness.
Yep, that's what I'm talking about.
I was so tempted because I love that miniseries.
Yes,
I just couldn't do it.
I saw the snake eyes in the guard uniform, whatever it was.
Yeah.
The snake Target. Yeah, and I'm like, snake eyes in disguise. Oh, I love that. $18. Snake eyes was $18. Oh, I didn't pull the trigger, but I was like Kevin. My hand kept reaching out for it.
Oh, trust me, I molested that package over. I was looking at it. I was going,
yes.
How much for this? I can't. No.
Man, we've talked about it. They need to have, in my opinion, again, maybe I'm wrong. I usually am. I am married, but they need to have a toy line out there for the kids, a cheaper price points, and they need to have a cartoon.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, Aaron. I think that all in all, I think we obviously watched an episode of the cartoon for this show. If they had a cartoon now with sort of today's not cheap animation, but good animation, like something they would support, I think that would go a long way to sort of bringing the franchise up again to a younger generation. They need a cartoon. They need product. I know they had the recent movie, which was a flop, but I think a cartoon coming on kids' screens every week would be a big assistance.
Oh yeah!
Look what they did with Netflix did with He-Man.
Yes,
the Kevin Smith version.
Well,
if they did something like that,
they got 2 He-Man cartoons.
Yeah.
They got the Kevin Smith one, which a lot of people complained about. I actually enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it, and I'm not a He-Man fan.
There's always a lot of Transformers stuff too. Transformers constantly has various cartoons, enough that they're in the picture. Same with Turtles. Turtles, love it or hate them, has a lot of cartoons still pumping.
Yes.
I don't know why G.I Joe doesn't. Maybe it's because of the military angle, but like just embrace it. Like you can't run away from the military angle with G.I Joe. You've got to embrace it,
Yes, that's what you have to do. That's what it is.
That's exactly right. It is what it is. Don't be ashamed of your own product.
Yes. Well, unless you haven't thought about the comic, Kevin, you were looking at this book. We'll move on to.
I just was wondering when you're going to get to ads. That's because I got a couple I want to mention.
Well, do we do the ads now? We're going to do. I was going to move on to the Real American Hero, but we do the ads first. What ads did you want to talk about there, Kevin?
There's 2. I used to have one of these, and it broke pretty quickly. I didn't have this particular model, but these headphone radios that were very popular back in the day. Cool. You guys remember these bad boys?
I had a set as well.
I didn't have one.
Let me go ahead.
Little AM/FM radio, and they were kind of clunky on the head. And if you turned in your Junior Mints and your Sugar Daddies and your Charleston Chews and your Pom Poms and your Sugar Babies and your Chuckles, It says Chuckles right here.
Yep.
Chuckles Candy right there.
Love it.
Aaron, why are you bending the cover back like that?
It's rolled nicely. It's not. I'm not floating my back.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Sorry.
And also, remember Mask, guys? Check the mask out.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you get like a preview of all the cool like toys and the play set, the Boulder Hill play set. Not in this picture though. Is my favorite. It's Hondo and his car. Check that bad boy out right there.
Nice.
All parts of it as well, including him inside. I'm not going to open it right now though, but yeah,
that's
very
cool.
nice.
Just want to give a shout out there. So
sorry. Something I just realized, you just showed a advertisement for a Kenner toy in a Hasbro comic toy magazine.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
My only issue with Mask was that they were smaller figures. I wish they were 3 3/4 because come on, Joe's riding some of the Mask cars. That would have been cool. But nope.
Nope.
But
I never got these toys, but I did like the cartoon. I had a lot of the comics.
Kenner right there. There you go.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Right there. Bring Kevin back up. Takes me a second. There you go.
It's a really cool ad though. I love that.
Yeah, it is.
So the thing that was cool about Mask, which I related to G.I. Joe, is that they had really cool vehicles. And my complaint with some of the Transformers was that the vehicles didn't always look cool because they had to make sure you could change them into the robot version.
Right.
And I'm a car guy. I grew up with my dad. We were big car guys. And so that's why I thought some of the GoBots were cooler, because they look cooler as cars, you know?
Yeah.
Well, another ad they had in here was for the Thundercats. Me back up. An ad for the Thundercats.
I loved
video
Thundercats
cassette.
As a kid, I loved the Thundercats.
I bet you that video cassette was $40.
Probably.
Wow.
You can also send for an 18 by 24 full color poster. $1 postage or handling. No stamps, please. So yeah, that was another one. Then also an ad for the new universe, Marvel Comics. That was
a flop.
It was pimping out their new universe, which didn't last very long.
No.
What was the concept of that?
It was basically just, I'm gonna say, a new universe, new heroes. They was trying to start, I guess, another universe besides Marvel.
Kind of like if they'd done Ultimates in '86, it was kind of like, but it was not done that well. Like,
okay.
I think it was a bit darker. I think it was darker as well. I believe. Yeah.
From I didn't get any of that. That was before I got into comics. But yeah, it was basically just new characters and separate from the Marvel universe, basically.
Yeah. But it flopped really hard.
Whereas the Ultimates was basically just taking the Marvel characters and putting them in a new universe with less continuity.
Yes.
These were all new characters, and they were starting a new universe to try to bring people in and do something besides just the regular Marvel books.
Yeah,
exactly. Again, no one knows about it today. So,
well, you know what? We've had Tom DeFalco on the show.
Oh, very nice.
And we went into some detail. Now, I think New Universe was probably still when Jim Shooter was editor-in-chief.
I believe so.
Yeah, but Tom took over after him, and it would be interesting to get his ideas because he was certainly at Marvel at that time. So the next time I have Tom on, I'm going to ask him about the New Universe.
Oh,
he probably remembers it not fondly. You know?
So let's go ahead and move on to the next segment. The Real American Hero. This is a Joe, Cobra, or somebody else that did something exceptional in this issue. And again, I'm willing to take someone from either story. So...
Wow, that's a good question. So, like, is it like an MVP kind of thing?
Yeah. Basically.
Okay. Right.
In fact, I'll go ahead and start this time. My Real American Hero is Serpentor.
Yep.
As we've talked about previously, I mean, he basically, he's a newborn. He just was created last issue, but he left out there. He led the charge. He took care of the wounded. He showed what a real leader is. So that's why Serpentor is my Real American Hero. Kevin?
Yeah, I would have given it to Serpentor as well. Just and I'll be honest, I was never a big Serpentor fan, but the fact honestly, I don't think he's ever been cooler since this issue, if I remember correctly. I'm hoping to prove myself wrong because as we're doing these podcasts, Aaron, I'm kind of revisiting these kind of for the first time because it's been so long. I can't remember what's happened, but I just remember him like he wasn't as cool as he was in this issue. And I'm hoping that I'm wrong with that. Other than that, I'm going to give it to Beachhead for just being in the back of the dump truck with Leatherneck. So, yeah.
So, Dave, do you have a real American hero? Again, Joe, Cobra, whoever.
Serpentor definitely has a claim, but I'm going to give it to one of my favorites, Storm Shadow, for his cool speech with all the different memories. I thought that was a really cool moment when he came out of that tank.
Oh, yes.
Storm Shadow's a dark horse, and I'm going to give it to him.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, that excellent choice. Yeah, that's a good one also. And Jim,
I'm going to give mine to Destro. While Serpentor was leading the charge against the Joes, Destro in the back, rescuing all the civilians, getting things taken care of, and then sweeping in and rescuing Serpentor at the last minute and taking off. So I give mine to Destro.
Oh, nothing wrong with that. Those are all good choices. Yeah, one and all. Those. Yeah, again, there was a lot going on in this issue. So yeah, there was a lot to choose from on who to give that to because there was, like you said, Destro was he was very much a lot of men would set on our side for love and you don't want to know me, and very much, and Beachhead, new character, riding along in the back of the dump truck taking out the bad guys, and Storm Shadow and his whole thing with coming out of the tank, and some great scenes with him, which we'll talk about here in a minute possibly. But they were all great choices. So this was a great issue to pick out a Real American Hero from. Well, I guess maybe it was a bad issue because there were so many great choices. Are
we picking one for the second story or no?
We can. I was
Beachhead again. Second one, man. Come on.
Yeah.
I choose
turned
Beachhead
invisible,
again.
Right?
Yeah,
Beachhead had it wrong. I loved it.
Yeah, nothing wrong with Beachhead at all. I'm going to give for the second. If we're going to pick one for the second story, I'm going to give mine to Stalker. Because again, we don't see a whole lot of Stalker nowadays, and just the way him and Hawk go busting and taking out those guys, and he just takes that electric charge and heads up, Toby. She just shocks the hell out of her. Very nice. So let's go ahead and move on to the page of art. Again, this is a page of art. If it was in my power, if I could give you any one page of art, what page of art would you guys take? And again, it can be from either story, either the special missions preview or the main one. Do you have one ready, Kevin, or do you need a minute?
Yeah, let the others go.
Jim, do you have one ready, or do you need a minute to pick something?
Well, if nobody else is going to go first, I'll pick the first page. The opening page, that's
a good one.
With the opening up, that one right there. Yeah. You got all that action going on, and that's the one that when I first started reading it back in the day. Okay, what's going on? Why?
Yes,
so that would be mine.
Great choice. And again, if anyone's out in the chat, if you guys want to post your pages or your Real American Heroes, I can read them off on the air. Dave, do you have?
Well, I hadn't thought of it, but I'll probably pick the one where Storm Shadow comes out of the tank because I just thought it was a really cool visual. And he's when he's talking, and saying like you can feel the blood of Ares and all that stuff.
You're referring to this one right here?
Yeah.
I like that page.
Yeah, it's a great page.
There's the other one where he kind of comes out and he looks ghostly. I thought you were referring to that one the first time. If you go back, when he first comes out and he surprises the Dreadnoks.
Pages, there you go.
Yeah, that might be it as well. I'm just bringing it up.
That's pretty badass there.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah,
coming out of the Conqueror's goo.
Yes.
Yeah, either of those two, I thought they were very striking pages. Actually, there's a lot of good battle scenes in the whole comic, but I liked those pages.
And I had both of those on my short list also, just because those are both great. And I really like Kevin said, that ghostly image of him coming out of the tank. That's very nice.
That's cool.
But out of those two, I like the other one a little better, mainly because of that top corner panel there.
Yeah.
We get a close up on his eye and we see the skull in his eye. It's just a neat touch. I like that.
He's a cool character. I love him. He's
Oh yeah, very much so. Kevin.
You know, it's tough because there's actually two and they're right back to back. And I think the Serpentor one, where I think this is the coolest he's ever been.
Yes.
But then when you turn the page, I do like this one, the Joe's on the dump truck. I just think that's really cool. I just get a kick out of it with Snake Eyes on the side. You see the guys in the back, and what is it? Quick Kick says, Recondo and Scarlet are losing a lot of blood, Stalker. Make them as comfortable as you can. Quick. Let's get this hot wired Snake Eyes. And I think that's a great panel there. I love it.
Yeah. And again, I'm going to take the page that Jim did. 1 second. Try that again. And I'll take the page that Dave didn't want out of either 7 or 11, because again, those were both great pages of Serpentor coming out of the tank. Those were fantastic, though.
Highlight yourself. Yeah, put yourself up. There you go. Yeah.
That's what I was doing. So, yeah, those are both great pages. A runner-up, another one I wouldn't mind having, as we mentioned earlier, is Lady J. Chagin.
Sure. Yeah.
Just that panel. I want that. Just that little frame. I want that on a T-shirt.
Yes. I
Not creepy at all.
No, I don't think it's creepy. Of course,
No.
saying a lot. My nickname at my last job was Big Perv, so what do I know? But that is G.I. Joe issue 50, or almost double-sized issue. One thing I was going to comment on that out of this issue, I'm a little surprised they didn't make it a little thicker and include like some pin-ups and character, some who's.
What would have been really cool? Now that you make me think of it, we had that famous, double page of the pit. It would have been really cool if they actually had a map of Springfield and showed like the Battle of Springfield, where the Joes did their insurrection, and where the Serpentor battle was. That would have been really effing cool.
It would have been. Well, they did that later on with the Cobra Island battle.
Yep.
Yeah.
In like 25 issues or so. So, and again, they had the pit from the previous, which I have hanging on my wall still. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Yes. Hey, you need to put that behind you in that blank wall so people can see it. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I usually try to move it down there on record. I forgot to do it this time. But yeah, so my TV is going to go there, I think. But yeah, no, I do like that pit. I love that cut out of the pit. And again, I can turn my head just a little bit. And, whoops. Can't go too far.
Nice. There you go.
Yep. Next to my Dungeons and Dragons poster from last year. But yeah, so we're going to go take a quick break and we'll be right back with the cartoon. Someone's got notes. So if you guys ready to go, let me see quick. And welcome back to G.I. Joe, a Real American Headcast. Now we are ready to look at the cartoon. Play the intro. So this episode was entitled Worlds Without End Part 2, directed by John Gibbs and Terry Lennon, written by Martin Pascal, first aired November the 5th, 1985. The synopsis: while stuck in an alternate world, the Joes find an unlikely ally, the Baroness. Stiller learns that the Baroness of this world is a double agent and his beloved. She helps rescue the Joes and sends them back to their own world, but Stiller, Clutch, and Grunt decide to stay in another world after seeing what Cobra has done to their alternate selves. So that is Worlds Without End Part 2. So let's go ahead and let's pull up some singles here. Let's go ahead and go to Jim first. Jim, get you on the spot. Do you have thoughts on this episode of G.I. Joe?
I've always liked stories where it was kind of an alternate. This is almost like a what if story for G.I. Joe or an Elseworlds for DC. And to it was it's excruciating back when these were airing. You watched one, and then if you didn't catch the next day, you were lost. You're like, what happened in part 2? But this one, I like how they wrapped it up, how they kind of twisted everything a little bit, to where the Baroness was good,
Right.
when it was on the underground. And is it just me, or did her voice sound a little bit different, a little softer?
Yeah, I was gonna say, a little sweeter, a little softer.
Yeah.
Little.
Okay, so it wasn't just me. It was just a little bit different. So, but when she was talking to Destro, it was a little more stern.
Yes.
So
when she was talking to her love.
Yeah.
Yes, she was a little softer, a little more sweeter, a little more
okay.
kindness. That's what it was. So we don't hear much from the Baroness.
No, which to each their own. But I liked how was it Steeler and Grunt found themselves, and that Steeler just went. He was already fevered and everything, and he just went for a loop. And but then Cobra Commander still likes his devices.
Yes.
Destro still likes his devices. That was still the same.
Yeah.
Then the Dreadnoks cracked me up. When Dreadnought said, so it was the long line that they were not doing what they were supposed to be doing. I'm like, really? Wait a minute here. That's total different. But overall, I liked how Joe slowly found out and figured out what was going on.
Yes.
And then once they found out, they're like, okay, and then they had to make that choice, and 3 of them stayed behind. And I don't think you ever see them again in the cartoon.
No.
In the movie, you do.
Do you for a little bit?
Yeah. That's
okay.
That was actually one of the trivia things I found out about it. It says,
okay.
Despite staying in the alternate Earth, Steeler, Clutch, and Grunt are seen back with the Joes in the G.I. Joe movie.
Okay. So they are back there. Okay.
Just the movie, though. But the movie, we don't know when that takes place. I guess I don't know. Yeah.
After Serpentor gets created and all that.
Yeah. So, yeah. But yeah, you don't see them, and I liked how it was 3 of the original Joes.
Yeah.
Not from 82, from the 82 run. So their time had happened, and they were stuck together as good buddies. And but overall, I love the episode. These 2 episodes are, you ask anybody, it's one of their top 3, top 5 storylines of the whole cartoon. So, yep, I loved it.
Kevin, you were rattling some paper earlier since we don't have
What? What are you talking about? Oh, this. Yes.
Oh, that. Hey, you got something written on it? You got some thoughts?
Oh, I got some stuff here. Okay, so it's funny too because I was on GIJoeFandom.com and they were talking about some of the notes on this episode and the continuity errors and stuff. And I was just like, yeah, I caught that. So the Cobra White House, Capitol, and Washington Monument are all gold. I thought that was pretty cool. I got to mention, looks a lot better than what they are now. So they destroyed the Cobra / Lincoln Memorial. It was interesting. And I still think that the Dreadnought cop uniforms are awesome. I would love to cosplay that with the finest. Get a couple people and dress up as the Dreadnought cops. That'd be kind of cool.
There you go. Make sure you take pictures.
Yeah, of course. Who are you talking to, bro?
Never mind. You're right. Never mind. Yeah.
The flying, is it the Cobra Claw, the little one wing thing? Is that what it's called? Okay.
Yeah.
The hang glider. I love how you had the Cobra with like the 80s shoulder style camera. And he's flying.
I love that.
He wouldn't be able to do that very long.
Yeah, he's got his camera on Steeler. And Layla, the hot Cobra officer. The one you call Steeler is delirious with fever. That sounds like a song right there, waiting to be made. And I was looking up the some of the technical errors and continuity stuff. It says the last episode, and you had a picture of it, was Layla's Cobra Trooper uniform featured bare thighs and a high cut bikini bottom.
Yes.
In this episode, the legs are covered. However, when she climbs out of her Hiss tank, she's wearing the skimpier togs. And then the scene shifts and her shoulders are bare, as well as when she tells Clutch and the Baroness will treat Steeler. I'm thinking that when they're animating this, there's probably some like person looking over the animator's shoulder going, too skimpy, change it.
Yeah.
Fix it. I just said I get things that go through my head. Layla, hot cobra. Oh, I'm sorry. I need to get off that. I'm sorry.
What? I'm sorry.
Bitten by mutant insects that Destro is farming. I think that's great. That's what Baroness said. I don't know if you guys caught this. I didn't the first time I saw this. The Cobra Gate Plaza Imperial Police Headquarters is basically Watergate building, the same style, the same structure, but it's called Cobra Gate.
I never caught that till this viewing.
I had to Google that going, did they actually do that in the same building? And yes, they did. I thought that was great. Destro's headquarters was gold as well with a big snake head, and the Washington Wall Monument had an internment slave labor camp in the front. I love how they had the slaves like being slaves from 900 BC, just like pulling some big thing on wheels,
Yeah.
We got trucks that can do that now. Come on.
I'm going to pause for a second here. I just want to say I actually love this story. I know we poke fun out of it and pull all the things, but this was one of those two-parters that feels like a little mini movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was serious, too. There's some serious moments, which I like. The Parasite Matrix Electronic Aerial Web Net, used twice with effectiveness out of the Washington Memorial, I thought was great. I love it when Cobra tech actually works really, really well for what it does. Right. In the aerial dogfight, you can't use any lasers, and it was draining the. I'm sorry, what are the name of those G.I Joe little
Skyhawk?
Skyhawks. Thank you. They were losing their juice. Their laser guns were losing their juice. Wait, no real guns? What are those shotgun shells on Flint for? I don't know.
For looks.
They're laser shotgun shells.
When Flint, Barbecue, and Airtight are in the prisoner section there, and they knock out those two Cobras, maybe take their uniforms. I don't know. Blend in. Zartan's motorcycle. That thing was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Didn't last long. It's just like a Fiat. Boom, explodes.
Which, Kevin, let me interrupt you real quick. Which actually lasted longer than the Silver Mirages do.
Yeah, this is true. Before they fall apart. Yes. Okay. That one Cobra Fang copter pilot was a little too quick to ditch his ride when he got shot at. It's because we're used to like Cobra flying vehicles and G.I. Joe flying vehicles. When they're shot, you have to see the guy, the pilot, escape with the parachute. Right. It was almost like that was an inside joke, like, oh, got shot, got to jump out. He didn't even try, because then it was commandeered by Flint and the Joes. I thought that was pretty funny. Cobra Commander loves the sport. His centrifugal persuader torture device. God, I love these names. I was having... This is with Clutch, Lady J, and Footloose. I was having a Moonraker flashback with James Bond when he's putting that centrifugal thing and they lock him in.
Yeah, I was thinking Rocket Man with that one, the comedian back in the they played Down Periscope.
Oh,
he was a crazy guy. That was just me, man. But.
Okay, so this episode gets a little kind of dark here. Steeler Grunt find the skeleton bodies.
Yes.
And Steeler's like going insane at the same time. And then, of course, that's when they're rescued by hot Cobra Layla. Did we mention that she was hot? Anyway, Baroness and her beloved Steeler. Good Baroness is a double agent. Yes, no glasses, by the way.
Yes.
Also hot. Just saying.
Yeah.
The Cobra Rattlers Air Patrol pilot uniforms, they kind of remind me of a little bit of that new Cobra Commander helmet that he unveils later, combination with the Rattler pilots. Did you guys get that feeling at all?
Yeah, now that you mentioned it, yeah.
Those were
Yeah.
AVACs, AVACs, but they
Okay.
weren't introduced till '86 with the fire bat.
Okay.
You
Thank you
look
for
at
clarifying that because I was
those are
curious.
yep. Because
Yeah.
even they had fire bats in the first season, but they were
Yeah.
gray instead of red. But these
Yeah.
were AVACs or AVACs.
Yeah. Remind
But
me
they
of
were
yeah, when Cobra Commander unveils his new helmeted outfit. Okay. There's a couple scenes. Anyone else think Steeler looked like Paul Walker?
Yeah, I know. I could hear that. Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah. I can see that.
Okay, so the Cobra Trooper informing Destro of 3 Cobras captured by the Parasite Matrix. Did you notice how swole he was? I mean, we're talking like Arnold Schwarzenegger Commando / Conan swole. We're talking The Rock every movie swole. I mean, the dude was like buff. It just stood out at me.
He reported on that on his way to the gym.
Yeah, God, yeah. And in that same scene, did you notice that the Cobras were in the room doing some type of experiments with rodents that were on display, like the ray thing? The lights were kind of like they were getting ready to do something with these
something
rodents.
crazy. Yeah.
They were kind of like rodents / Did you guys notice that? Like, what was going on there?
Who knows?
I need backstory on that.
Yeah.
What the hell were they doing? Because experiments by Cobra usually work. What was that about? Was that a cutscene? I need to know. You don't just throw that in there and not answer that. But apparently they didn't. Baroness convinces Destro the captured Joes that are with him and turns Destro and Cobra against each other. Cobra Civil War. Big question before my last thing here. Who won that battle?
We'll never know.
And the gateway portal just kind of appears, and Steeler, his girlfriend Baroness Grunt, and Clutch, they all stay behind. I thought that was kind of cool, a little bit on the serious side, and they wanted to try and rebuild G.I. Joe in that universe. And I think it was you, Jim, mentioning that it was nice to see like a what if, like a man in the high tower type of situation.
Yep.
And I always remember that this 2-parter was one of my favorites for that reason. I love seeing that Cobra took over the world and took over these monuments and kind of making them cooler looking. I'm just saying. That's my thoughts, my notes.
Dave.
Yeah. Well, I mean, certainly not as exhaustive as Kevin, but I had not seen this episode. So I've got all the G.I. Joe cartoons, and I've been watching it, and I was surprised, I felt, by a slightly darker episode. I love an alternate timeline episode. Like Jim was saying, this was right up my alley. I felt this was a very strong episode of G.I. Joe cartoons. Sometimes when I'm watching animated, I must admit, I love the start. Sometimes in the action bits, my brain switches off a little bit. Like as a modern day viewer, I'm sure if I was a 12-year-old kid, I'd be like, But that said, the whole episode, the thing with Baroness surprised me. I thought it was really cool. When they found the bodies of the Joes that had been killed, like skeletons, I was like, wow, I'm actually kind of impressed that they're doing this. It was, I mean, darker might not be the right word, but you guys know what I mean. Just some slightly more mature themes mixed in. I felt it was a really good episode of the cartoon, which I enjoy the cartoon. It's so cheesy normally, but I like that. It's part of its appeal. This was probably slightly less so because they went to Cobra's world. It was kind of cool that Cobra seemed more competent here. In the cartoon, they're often a figure of absolute fun.
Right.
But it tied in with, I felt, the comic we did this week, which showed Cobra evacuating relatively successfully. It was just neat to see. I mean, honestly, easily one of my favorite episodes I've seen of the cartoon. And yeah, for me, extremely good entry. Really, there was no weak points. I was totally thrown by Baroness's romance. I did not see that coming at all. It makes total sense. And I don't think he saw it coming either. The character, who was it? Was it Jesus? Was it Steeler?
Steeler.
Yeah, Stiller.
Steeler.
Yeah, Steeler. Yeah. But I was kind of amused at the end when he decided he was going to stay. I thought for a second that Flint would say, "It ain't a choice, boy. Get in the machine." Like kind of pull order on him. But this is kids' comics or kids' cartoons. And then I like how everyone else was like, "Oh, me too. I'm staying as well." I'm like, you guys do realize this is a Cobra run world. It's not as easy as, as all that. But hey, they were happy to. I guess they'd served their time on the toy racks, and it was time for them to exit stage left. And yeah, a really good episode of the cartoon. Probably my favorite episode that I've seen so far, actually.
Oh, very nice. Good. And before I give my thoughts on this, we have in the chat, Hines has joined us. He says, "Hello, gentlemen." Hello. And over on Facebook, we have Sean Tufson joining us. He says, he loved that episode. Thank you both for joining us. And hello to both of you guys. So go to my thoughts on this. I do like when, they're blowing up the Cobra Memorial or Cobra, whatever you want to call it, since he's still alive. The Cobra statue comes flying out towards the camera. I love that shot. My thoughts on this is any world, the Dreadnoks are incompetent. What world we're in. And I did have a note here. I never really noticed it until now. The Cobra Gate Plaza. I didn't do the research that Kevin did, but I assume this was a reference to Watergate. I love that. I love that. Cobra Gate Plaza. The slave labor camp and barbecue's like, heck of a way to solve unemployment.
Yes, I like that line too.
Made me chuckle. And then a little bit later, Airtot made the same comment that I did about the Dreadnoks, about them being stupid no matter where you're at.
Yes.
And I noticed this, and I've questioned this before. In fact, I talked with Zach Hoffman, the voice of Zartan, on the last Bravo team. And Zartan, his head, I can't never tell if that's hair or a cow. When he's on the motorcycle, it almost looked like hair this time. His hair was flying in the breeze, and it just thought that was interesting.
Well, he's got long hair, hasn't he? Hasn't he got long hair?
Well, so I'm not sure if that's supposed to be a cow covering his hair.
I think it's a cowl. Yeah.
I think it's a cowl.
Usually looks like
a hood.
Yeah.
He definitely wears a hood. He definitely wears a hood, but I thought he had long hair, sort of shoulder length long hair as well. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm far from an expert,
Well, usually we just see him with that brown, whatever it is on his head. So
yeah,
but
great character, great character.
Fantastic. I love.
By the way, have you guys seen that really funny video? Which is the song of G.I. Joe, the Ballad of G.I. Joe?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, that is so good.
Yeah,
I
posted
caught
that a while back. And
oh,
that's a great video. That's funny.
It really
yeah,
is,
I'll come across it every once in a while and have to repost.
There's some celebrities in that video.
Yeah.
And I think there's a couple of Finest members in there too, but there's a couple celebrities in that one. I forget who they are, but yeah.
No, that's a really good. I'm bringing up Zartan as we're speaking. I just want to clarify. I mean, it's definitely a cow, but I thought he had long hair underneath it. But maybe
we don't really see it. I mean, the next look we see for him, he's got I think he's like a shaved head, like a mohawk or something. I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I've got one here where he's got a shaved head as well. So maybe
that's later on.
A shaved head. Yeah. Okay.
So, but yeah, like I said, but this episode it'll actually look like hair when he was on his motorcycle, but.
Well, he can change his face, can't he, and stuff?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Whole things. Yeah. He's like a shape changer.
Yeah. Definitely.
Go ahead.
Good, Kevin.
I was just going to mention, it was nice seeing Grunt get some action in this because that was my first G.I. Joe action figure.
Oh, very nice.
And before I really got invested into G.I. Joe, I picked him first just because he looked like a regular soldier. And I always liked Grunt. I don't think he got the due that he should have got, but he was basically a Grunt. So yeah.
Yep.
It's what the whole franchise was built on originally, wasn't it? Like the G.I. Joes, that's back to basics.
Yeah.
It's almost
Yep.
He's almost in every cover of G.I. Joe up in the top left corner.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love
Mhm.
My next thought on this is Earth 2 Stiller, kind of a lucky guy, having the Baroness fall in love with him. Well, okay. Maybe he's not that lucky since he's dead, but before that.
Well, you know who's up for grabs? Her assistant.
Oh, Layla, yes.
Like, that's what I'm saying.
Trying to
I'd
get
be
sidetracked.
jockeying for that position because, like, there's only so many women in the resistance, it seems. So,
Sweet, sweet Layla. Why didn't we get her figure? We get her figure, but why didn't we get her toy
You
figure?
could play the Eric Clapton song, like Serenade with that. Like she hops in the van, you just pump that song on and go, yeah, Layla, let's go.
That's the reaction figure I'm waiting for, and I'll probably pick up. Oh.
That's yeah. Well, I was going to say when Kevin was talking about the Dreadnought police officers would be great reaction figures.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Very nice. Yeah, that would be. With them,
Hey, it's weird. It's weird to see Baroness actually crying because she was so sad that he was going to go through the portal. If
Yes.
you look at her, she was
Oh, yeah.
crying. It was like, I want to see love. I want to see love.
Yeah. Here she's a lot softer, a lot more human.
Oh, you know what I thought would have been a great twist? I thought of this. Imagine if I thought this might have happened. Imagine if he'd gone back to the original universe and there was like a moment where Baroness in the original universe had some sort of like attraction to him,
Yes.
kind of muted, like, or if it was in the comics, you did a storyline where Baroness, who's normally like the Queen Prince of Evil, she kind of does a little flip, very privately, like that really high level double agent, something like that.
Yeah, or she goes, you look a lot like Paul Walker.
Yeah, Paul. Before the crash. Before the crash.
Yeah, before.
Before the charring of the body.
Yes.
Yeah. He was a little too fast, a little too furious. Turns out.
Oh, love you, Dave. Fantastic. And the Cobra Civil War, a couple years before it happened in the comics. So I do like, we got the Cobra Civil War starting here. And like you guys said, we never do see the end of it. Don't know how that turns out.
Still going.
Yeah, apparently, maybe.
Too.
You guys have talked about Steeler, Clutch, and Grunt. They stay behind. This is one way to write out some Joes, because again, they got the new Joes coming out.
Yep.
They've got too many Joes. They've got to write some of them out. So this is a way to write them out. And if they want later on, they can return to them.
Dump them in the Earth too, just like mass dumpings.
Well, later on in the comics, Grunt retires, or not retires, but
he went to college.
Yeah, he leaves the army.
He went to
goes
college. He took the diploma program that the Joes offered.
Yeah,
How funny would have been if Flint said those are some brave men staying over there to fight and bring Joes back to life because we need new toys over here in our world.
Yeah.
But
this
no,
is working out really well for the Hasbro product line.
And as Sean over on Facebook says that he would have stayed behind too if the Baroness was in love with him.
Oh,
yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Either her or Layla, I would have stayed for either one of them. I mean,
either one, I would have been happy.
As someone on the show is want to say, hot.
Yeah.
Hot.
But yeah, no, I love this. I wish they would have done a sequel to it. That's one thing they didn't, which I would have liked to see in a return, or maybe not even the Joes returning, but us turning our eye to this world and seeing.
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
With this cartoon, from my memory as a kid, this was kind of the peak of G.I. Joe. How long did this peak last, toys and cartoon? Like, what was the peak year that you guys consider?
Well, I would say this was what, 85 when this came out? Yeah, 85. I would say between 85 and 87, 88 maybe.
Okay, right. That's
because this series, this seasons, there was 2 seasons, but like in one season, I think there was like 40 something episodes or something.
There's a lot, There's a lot. I think you're right because I've got them on my drive, and it was right at the end of the season, toward the end. This particular episode.
Did you guys ever recreate? Did any of you guys ever recreate either these cartoon stories or comic book stories with your action figures like I did?
Oh yeah.
No, just me. Okay, fine.
No,
Oh,
you're not alone.
but
Oh, no.
I definitely recreated Transformer stories and Star Wars. So if I'd been into G.I. Joe, I certainly would have been doing it. You know? No doubt.
So real quick, Kevin, there was 55 episodes, or Dave Hoover was asking about. There's 55 episodes in the first season,
Wow.
and this was episode 37.
37, yeah.
Man, I wish they redid this kind of style. Like, I love this animation style. If you clean this up for today,
Oh yeah.
put it out, I still think that there'd be a market for with the kids. You know?
Oh, very much so. Yeah, no, that's what we keep saying over on especially on the Bravo team. Me and Chad's always talking about how they need to have cartoons and this animation.
You know,
this animation, even looking back 40 years later, is not bad animation.
I agree. Considering how long ago it is, I've seen far worse. And frankly, if they would just invest, I mean, this is Hasbro that owns it. I mean, aren't they swimming in money from all their billion franchises? Like, come on.
You would think, but yeah, the G.I. Joe gets the short end of the stick. I mean, like what about earlier, Transformers, they've always got cartoons, comics, toys.
Yeah, Transformers, they definitely promote more heavily than G.I. Joe, for sure.
G.I. Joe, we got one movie, one, in my opinion, good movie, and then we have the movie that shall not be named.
That was a disappointment. Look, I will say it. I've supported all of the G.I. Joe movies in cinemas.
Yes, me too.
And I felt the last one was probably the poorest. But like, I don't know. There was a lot of problems with that whole thing. At least they were trying.
The truest G.I. Joe movie, I think, is the second one, Retaliation.
Megaforce.
Yeah, or 1982's Megaforce.
Yeah, no, that's what I thought. I've seen a lot of people give that Retaliation hate. I don't understand that.
Retaliation is good.
It's
like I like Retaliation. Retaliation's better.
I thought it was the closest to the comic.
Yeah,
I like it. Well, it wasn't perfect by any means, but it was the closest live action G.I. Joe named movie that we've gotten that's close to G.I. Joe. That's
I'm gonna throw something to you guys. What if they did? Do you guys watch? My girlfriend watches SEAL Team with David Barantz.
I've seen ads for it, but I haven't watched it.
Okay. It's not a bad show if you like military stuff. Now, what if they did a G.I. Joe movie in that vein where it's slightly more grounded?
Mm-hmm.
But I think you could do a TV show of G.I. Joe. Like live action.
Definitely.
We've talked about that before. Yeah, they need to do a live action. Yeah. And I know once time they were talking about doing a Lady J TV series, but I haven't heard anything about that.
Why Lady J out of all the characters? Like,
because of Adrian Padalecki.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I just think they should do a G.I. Joe TV show. Yeah. Like, don't focus in on one. Because don't focus in. I love Snake Eyes, but don't focus in on a Snake Eyes TV show. He's a member of the TV show, and you could do episodes that were centric to him. But don't focus in on one, because part of the appeal of G.I. Joe to me is it's a whole team.
The multicultural aspect of it, which is great. Yeah. And the different backgrounds that you learn from reading those action figure card backs. When you were reading the comics or watched the TV series, you had background, and that made you more invested in those characters.
Yeah, no, they need to do a special missions type G.I. Joe TV live action TV series. Yeah, focusing on. We don't need to focus on 40 members of the team.
Yeah,
and I mean it's like, look at the TV shows that are popular on network TV. It could easily fit into one of those models. The problem they would have with it is that someone would like one or two of the actors to show up in an episode, and so the series would all of a sudden just focus on only these two characters. They would be the regulars. I don't know. I don't know why, but it seems like they don't want to do like an anthology type show. Yeah,
and that's what it should be. And a couple episodes on these members doing something. And you can have a rotating cast that way. That way you don't have, a main character in the show. I mean, you can have like Hawk or Duke or somebody, probably Hawk sitting back at the headquarters, or Duke, assigning missions, showing up, once an episode or something. And then just have, all new characters, because there's so many characters, they can have almost all new characters each episode or each episode arc or whatever. And that would be fantastic, I would think.
I'd love to see it. I mean, hopefully one day it happens. Obviously, Hasbro are sort of rebooting the franchise anyway, so God knows.
But
what
no,
they
like
do.
I said, the cartoon is a bit goofier normally. But for me, as I've said before, usually the two-parters or the multi-parters are usually my favorites of the cartoon.
Yep.
And this one is definitely, no doubt in that because, like I say, it does have some of the goofy moments. It does have the Cobra, as I think it was Kevin mentioned, these goofy Cobra weapons, but there is a more serious side to it. I mean, we show that the skeletons of several dead G.I. Joe members.
Yeah.
We have talked about how, a lot of them are dead or missing. And we get a softer side of Baroness, still hot. And, but yeah, and like I say, it's a way to write out, as I mentioned, a way to write out some of these G.I. Joe characters that have been around since the beginning. They need to move on to the new characters. They're getting too many. Let's write these characters out. Throw them on Earth 2.
I got a question. Does Python Patrol ever show up in the cartoon?
Yes, it does.
Excellent.
In the produced episodes that we will not speak of.
Actually, we'll talk about those eventually down the road. But it doesn't show up in the Sunbow series. It shows up in the Deke.
Yeah.
series.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
In fact, when this was on the air, we had these 2 seasons. We had G.I. Joe the movie, and then we had, I think it was a 3-part of the Deke series. At the time, I didn't realize it had changed hands. It was I forget the name of the series now. But it was the
Operation Dragonfire.
Thank you, Operation Dragon.
It was a 5-part series.
Okay, yeah.
And that was decent. But
Yeah.
then when they actually went into the,
See,
you thought some of these were silly. Just get into the Deke series and yeah.
So, like I say, here in my local area, that Operation Dragonfire was the last one I saw. I didn't see any more after that. I don't know if they got off the air or whatever. For whatever reason, I missed it after that. I think I was 19, so I was getting to college and starting moving to my mom's house and stuff. So that may be another reason why I missed it. Later on, I heard that there was actually an entire 2 more seasons through Deke. I picked them up on DVD. I haven't watched them yet because I started covering it on the show. I'm like, well, I'm going to get to it eventually on the show.
Yeah.
I'll wait till I get to it on the show and watch it for a first run when I'm actually covering on the show. And from what I hear from a lot of people, that may be the best choice. That way I don't have to sit through it twice. But we'll see.
Yeah. And
We'll
I
see
know that the product line just got more and more kind of like crazy, as it would. As the 80s slid into the 90s, like more extreme, I guess is the word I'm trying to use.
Well, and as we talked about over on Bravo team, Chad had mentioned that, G.I. Joe tended to follow the trends. And by the late 80s, early 90s, you had the Turtles and you had all these, mutants and these extremes and all these flashy colors. So G.I. Joe followed suit. And that's kind of where I got lost and lost the way of G.I. Joe. And like I said, in the comics, I still have a lot of them, but I kind of faded out in the 120s when it became Snake Eyes featuring G.I. Joe, like you were commenting earlier, Dave. So that's kind of, wasn't really reading it as well as I should have been, I guess, or as I had previously, just because, it was going too extreme and colorful and all this other. We'll find out as we get down the road, a few years down the road. But it was an enjoyable cartoon. I enjoyed this episode. Like we've said before, while it's tend to be more goofier, the cartoon is what got a lot of us into G.I. Joe. That's what first got me into G.I. Joe was the cartoon. So no matter how goofy it gets, I've got love for the G.I. Joe cartoon.
Hell yeah.
Like, especially these 2-parters or 3-parters or 5-part episodes. These are usually the best. So
I would spend $30 on a Pyramid of Darkness extended Blu-ray special edition right now. I would do that.
Yeah, why not?
Give me that Pyramid of Darkness and the Fatal Fluffies and the breakdancing ninja. Give it to me now. I'll take it.
Come on, Hasbro, deliver it to Kevin's house. Come on. You've got it there.
Yeah, no, but that's
slide under the door.
Fantastic.
Love it.
So, and that's all the thoughts I had on this this episode. Before we sign off, any final thoughts, Kevin? Anything about the cartoon or the comics that we haven't talked about that you want to mention?
I'm excited to get into this next phase of the G.I Joe comics because we've had a really good run, and there's some really good covers coming up too with some interesting storylines. We're not going through the lull yet; that kind of happens a little bit later on, but we are getting some good stories, and I'm excited about that. And as for the cartoons, I vaguely remember some of these, so I'm kind of rediscovering these for the first time. And I don't know if I told you. I did. I mentioned last week when we were talking about Worlds Without End Part 1, I just remember it being one of my favorites, but I didn't remember how it ended. And I did not watch this episode until today because I wanted that feeling of anticipation and excited to watch the second part of it. It was kind of like when you watch the old Batman episodes where, you'd have the two-parters, obviously. You have to wait till see what happens. And it was fun to actually wait a month or whatever it was to actually watch it. So I'm looking forward to it. Thanks again for having me on, as always. This is fun. It was good to meet you guys too, Jim and Dave. So,
Thanks.
Yeah, I've talked to Dave before. I've been on an episode of his show, and I'm gonna have some more of my shows. And Jim's been showing up in the chats and on the Facebook.
Nice.
It's finally nice to pet a name, and I love the headquarters there behind your head there. It's very nice. I love your displays there. Very nice, Jim.
Yep. Thank you.
But Dave, any other thoughts on this? Either the issue or the cartoon that we've talked about today?
No, just overall very positive. I thought it was very strong. I read it all last night, and so I read it all, all together. And I'm glad I read 49 leading in, because then I knew what was going on.
Right.
And the cartoon, like the comic, I expect good things from it, and I was very happy. The cartoon I felt was the best episode I've seen of the cartoon so far.
Yes, you're not wrong.
Yeah. And thank you for having me on. It's always been a pleasure, and great to see you guys. Fantastic, and always glad to chat with you, Aaron, of course.
Dave, I just want to clarify too. We poke a lot of fun at the cartoon, but there's a certain nostalgia that it just brings back. Whether you're racing home from school afterwards to watch the new episodes, back to back with either Transformers or Inspector Gadget or whatever it is.
Oh yeah.
But there's still we love them, but we still make fun of them, and it's fun. It's fun to pick out certain things, and I still can't get over whatever those rat type creatures what they were going to do to those things. And how do you just throw that in there and not go further with it?
Well,
that would have been the first
something sneaky,
That would have been the first mission I would have sent Steeler on with Baroness, is finding out what the hell they were doing with those rats. Just saying. Anyway,
I wanted to follow up on that, Kevin. I mean, I see a lot of people, and I listen to some podcasts that I didn't listen to very long, but they would hate watch or hate read something, and they would, this was terrible. This person was terrible. Every episode's the same thing.
Don't watch it then, like
I can't find that. Like I say, we do, as Kevin says, we do poke fun at, right? Our British friends say, take the piss out of these episodes, because again, they're very whimsical at times and can be problematic. But overall, like I said, no matter how bad they are, we love them, and we joke about them out of love. Yeah. It's not like we're watching these. Oh, I gotta watch this stupid episode. Oh, this was horrible. This person was horrible. I can't understand when people hate watch or hate read something just to.
I'll be perfectly honest with you.
Life's too short.
Exactly. And Aaron, I'll be perfectly honest. Before I met you, I was trying to find a reason to watch those episodes again. I freaking bought them, but you just never throw in the DVDs and just find time because there's so much to watch. But I love the fact I have a reason now. So thank you.
I'm glad I could give you a reason to. And I enjoy hearing your thoughts, and you bring some good questions. So, Jim, any other thoughts or comments on either the episode or the issue we've talked about today?
Just there's a comment at the last conversation we're having. When people are reviewing the comic or the cartoon, a couple things you have to do. You have to put yourself back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Okay. Where was this in relationship to other TV shows
that
or cartoons at the time? Let's do that. Secondly, you got to look at it today's time. Yeah, it was kind of silly, but again, what was it in the 80s? It was great. It was one of the best cartoon shows around. But
it was written for kids.
Yeah.
It wasn't meant to be serious. It wasn't meant to be, it was meant to sell toys.
Yeah. So when your people are reviewing it, you got to be able to separate that from where you're at now.
Yeah.
Secondly, to do with the cartoon, when the guys, Clutch, Steeler, and Grunt stayed, Steeler, if you remember from the part 1, he was questioning why are we doing what we're doing.
Yep.
Well,
we
he
fight
found
them,
out
they
why.
fight us, they run away. Yeah.
He found out why they do it, and that's the big push of why he stayed, and then his buddies stayed along. So, but that was that. And thanks for having me on. I had fun and get to know the rest of you guys. So
it was great. Actually, yeah, I've seen you. We've talked in the chat or in the on the Facebook group. So yeah, it's actually nice to put a name to the face and actually hear you. Actually get to talk to you. It was a great pleasure talking to you, Jim. So before we go, Kevin, if people want to hear more about you and your love of everything Highlander and Mega Force and everything else, where can they find you, buddy?
Well, I'm the co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network, and we've got a bunch of great shows under the network. As you mentioned, I co-host a Highlander podcast. It's one of my deep loves is Highlander and the Highlander TV series as well. But we also have a Star Trek podcast where we talk about Star Trek and the Orville Union Federation. We're all discussing Star Trek Picard right now. We have a Star Wars podcast there as well. We've got action movie podcast, and as I mentioned, we also have another movie podcast that we call Couch Potato Theater, where we discuss our favorite movies. And we have coming up Empire Records from 1995.
Cool.
Celebrating Rex Manning Day, and if you know, you know. So that's going to be coming out soon. And I'm also a member of the G.I Joe Finest Costume Group. Have been since 2015, I think it's 2016. And I'm the CEO of the California Coastal Defense Garrison there. So we got that going on, and I'll be at WonderCon next weekend. It was at April 24th through the 27th in Anaheim, and we're going to be having a G.I Joe / Hasbro photo shoot there for anyone that has costumes and stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm not sure exactly which costume I'm going to wear yet, but I might bring one I haven't done in a while if I can repair it in time. So
Cobra Commander. What about Cobra Commander?
I
Cobra Commander Incognito. I love that.
I do have an Incognito Cobra Commander that's tempting to do, but there's another one I haven't worn in a while that I want to kind of bring out. We'll see. So but anyway, check out the Fandom Podcast Network. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at Spartan_Phoenix, and you can find me on Facebook.
Very nice. And Dave, what do you do out there that you like to talk about?
You can always find us on Signal of Doom. We have a comic book and pop culture podcast there. We've just gone over 300 shows. We're weekly, so you can find us on Facebook, Signal of Doom, Twitter, Signal of Doom. If you want to follow me individually on Twitter, please feel free at Red Lantern 2051. We've got 2 spin-off podcasts that I do with a friend who's actually based in the States, Adam. We do Legion Outpost, which is a Legion of Superheroes podcast, and Dread or Dead, which is my passion, Judge Dredd. And we do that as well. So, we have a lot of fun. So, check us out. And awesome to be here, guys, chatting.
And Jim, do you do anything that you artistically you want to talk about, or the fan?
Not artistically currently. I've see me on Facebook at Jim Meal. Currently, and then I don't have any podcasts, but I've guested on a few recently, so take a look at those with the G.I Joe Chronicles, the Longback Crusade, and then I just did a show recently with Joe on Joe. So look those up, that's it. I'm pretty simple right now. So
there you go.
You're a Joe specialist, man.
I wouldn't say specialist. I just have a passion.
Not much difference.
So I'm sure there's a lot of others with a lot more knowledge, but
I love it.
And honestly, yes, knowledge helps, but to me, especially when you have the passion, that's what I love is when people have their passion for G.I. Joe. And like I say, you guys are both welcome on anytime you guys want to show up. Let me know. You guys are always welcome on the show. I enjoy chatting with you guys. You guys are very
Yo,
knowledgeable.
Joe.
And for me, you can catch me here on the Headcast Network. I've got a billion shows. I've got my G.I Joe show, which, as I've talked about, started off as a monthly show. Now it's weekly. 1 week we talk about the comics and cartoon like we're doing right now. Another week we talk about on Bravo Team, anything else G.I Joe related. Like I said, I just released episode 20, which was my interview with Zach Hoffman, aka Zartan. That was great times.
Cool.
And then in between weeks, I have G.I Joe, The Adventure Continues, where we play, me and three other guys play actually four other guys, the Game Master. Can't forget about Eric. We play the G.I Joe role-playing game, and I broadcast those as shows. We're having a fun time on
you
that.
broadcast the actual play session live, do you?
The role-playing game, we
Yeah.
record them, and I edit it down, and then I
that's
broadcast
cool.
it as
That's cool.
in-between
Yeah.
shows, yeah. So,
Okay.
and then I got my other shows, Head Speaks, where I talk about anything geeky, Task Force X, where I talk about Suicide Squad. I was talking about Checkmate, but that's ended finally, so I'm just talking Suicide Squad now.
Mm-hmm.
The Starman Adventure Hour, where I talk about the Will Payton Starman. Again, that I started out with talking about Will Payton and the Mark Shaw Manhunter, but that series ended. And then the wife and I talk about on Starbright Project, we talk about Quantum Leap.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, I've watched the original Quantum Leap a million times. This was her first time through. So she was watching, giving her thoughts. But now with the new season, as we're calling it, season 6, we've kind of shifted gears. And me, her, and our friend, another friend from Australia, Hayden McQueenie, we're all watching it for the first time through now on the new season. So loving it. I know there's a lot of people out there hating on it, but I'm loving the new series. I don't know it's quite as good as the original, but it's up there.
It's fun. Has it been renewed for season 2? Do we know?
Yes. Yep.
Excellent. Oh, that's
yeah.
good
It started off like at 9 or 10 episodes, but they extended it to a full 18 episodes, and then they renewed it for a season 2. So,
did they? Was that the one that changed networks, or am I thinking Magnum PI?
You're thinking Magnum PI.
Okay.
PI,
Yeah, it just came back on NBC.
I think Quantum Leap is fun, like the new show.
I'm enjoying it. Yes.
Yeah.
I got some qualms about it, but that's just because that's who I am. But overall, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, it's not perfect, but what show is perfect out of the gate?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, yep.
Like,
And then we also do Voyager's cast, looking at the 1982 TV show Voyagers, not Star Trek Voyagers, but another time travel show. We're coming up to the end of that show. We recorded episode 17. It was like 20 episodes. So we're coming up to the end of that show. So
I heard that mentioned on a podcast I listened to. That's like a D&D role-playing podcast, Saved by Half. And they were chatting about TV shows, and they mentioned that. I've never heard that show mentioned by anyone except you. So someone else out there has also seen it. So
there you
it's
go.
Not just it's not just one of those things that only you have
fans
seen.
out there.
Yeah.
There's 2 fans out there. No,
and they were big fans of it too.
Oh yeah, no, it's a great show. It only lasted 1 season. They canceled it because I think it was NBC. They wanted to put a new show on to compete with 60 Minutes.
Right.
And that news shows only lasted like 1 season and it bombed. And unfortunately, the main character from Voyagers, John Eric Hexum, he starred in some other TV show the next season, and there was an accident on the set and he died, unfortunately.
Oh, Jesus.
So,
wow.
So yeah, unfortunately.
Yep.
It's rock and roll, man.
Yeah, I'm telling you. But yeah, it's a great. Again, a lot of problems, a lot of qualms with it, but overall, yeah, it's a fun show.
Yeah, cool.
Going to again, I watched it when it was first, when it first aired when I was 12 years old. So, time travel, it was right up my alley. So, fantastic show. But I guess I've talked enough about my crap for the one day. Check it over on Headcast Network. I have Facebook.com/Headcast Network, and then also for this show is Facebook.com/G.I Joe, and over on YouTube. If you're not checking that out, I have youtube.com/@g.i.joe_headcast. And again, we usually stream these episodes, and occasionally the Bravo teams all stream on there. So definitely check it out. Until next month, when we talk about issue 51, and apparently the first issue of Special Missions, and then the next episode of the cartoon, which we have to look up. But that's going to do it for this time. Remember, knowing is half the battle. Yo, Joe. If I get
Yo, Joe.
Yo, Joe.
Yo, Joe.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate that. And again, Sean over in the chat, I assume that's still Sean, says, thanks for the show, guys. Yo, Joe. Thank you very much for joining us, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
Hines and
Hines.
Piper. Thank you guys very much for joining us in the chat. I love talking with you guys and hearing your thoughts. So I'm going to go ahead and end the broadcast. If I get you guys stay on just for another minute or so.